Call the meeting to order, please. Start with the pledge of allegiance. Call for the Selectmen meeting, but also start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, if I can just make. So I just, I want to say thank you to everybody for being here. It's a Saturday morning. It's your volunteers and you're not expected to be here on a Saturday morning. So we've done this now probably I want to say 4 or 5 years in a row anyway. Bringing the Board of Finance in early in the budget process, so at least you're not feeling rushed as you head towards the dates that we have in the charter for referendum. So great process, I think, very interactive. I think it's informative for everybody, and so just want to say thanks. Any comments from the public? Up there. Any comments from board members?
Okay.
Bruce?
It's less a comment and more of a question, really going to you, Carl, and to Leanne. I'm just interested in how we got to where we are today. You know, when we talked with folks at the Board of Education, they talked through their process, which is effectively the development of the current services budget and output. So for, you know, just for my edification, maybe for Eric's as being kind of new here, what was the process that got us to the numbers and things that we are at today? 2 minutes, doesn't have to be detailed.
Back in October, a memo is sent out to all the department heads saying, a memo from me saying, you know, let's get your budgets to Leanne so she can put them in the program. Leanne and I both, but I mean, I certainly talked to all the department heads about their needs, capital needs, what increases they might be seeking or decreases, or if there's better, you know, personnel, if there's any major personnel changes that doesn't appear to be in this year's budget. Put the budgets together. It's a little bit frenetic. It's a little bit frenetic towards the end of the year and into January for Leanne. But basically, it's a call to the department heads to put their budgets together. So these budgets are just as they are presented from the department heads, with no, I mean, it might be some discussion with me, but no particular reductions by me or by the Board of Selectmen.
Right, prior to these conversations.
So per the charter, the first selectman presents a compiled budget to the Board of Selectmen February 15th, and then the formal budget, that budget that's voted on by the Board of Selectmen, even though it doesn't call for a vote in the charter, we typically have voted, gets referred to the Board of Finance for March 1.
Mm-hmm.
The Board of Education budget goes directly to the Board of Finance for March 1. And then the Board of Finance deliberates and goes through the referendum process. You know that part of it.
Right.
Want to add something?
So the budgets are due to the first selectman by the 15th for the department heads. We also post all of this stuff on the website. We put all of these workshops that are taking place. We put the budget process up there and all of the key dates. And then once we finished the first selectman's budget and presented to the Board of Finance, that budget is then going to be posted on the website for public so they can see it. And then once the Board of Finance finishes up their budget, then if there's changes or we just state that this is the Board of Finance budget, even if there aren't any changes, that is also posted to the website. So public gets to have access through the website and come into these meetings with notice.
So does the department get a from Leanne with the contractual increases in salary? Do they effectively get this is the way your budget would look if nothing changed by doing that, and then they work off of that? Is that the process?
Yes, well, I'm sorry if you were going to
No,
answer.
no, go ahead.
So I do all of that. Our systems automatically upload and change all of the contractual steps that go from step 1 to step 2, the contracted wages. Carl and I talk about what we want to do for, in terms of, healthcare, how much that's going to go up, and we work the assumptions together with our consultant at Brown and Brown, and any of the other benefits that are contractual in nature, if they need an assumption to be made. So when the department head gets their budget, from salaries to benefits, they don't touch. Everything below that is all operational, and they put those numbers in. And then they also can request capital, which, as you know, you're on the capital committee, as is Brad. And that is a separate meeting where they go before you to state what all of their capital projects are. And actually, I have a copy of the capital at your place, so you can see what has been requested, so that as the departments come forward, you know, I'm here to assist them if you have questions about salaries and benefits. We've already presented the capital, and then they'll talk mainly about their operations.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
First, action for the board is the Acton Library. So we have the floor.
Where is it? Over there.
Which floor?
You guys
Have this end of the day.
Oh, okay. No, here. No, you don't. It's okay. I mean, unless you really want to. Really close. Okay. I can put in, you know what, do you have your bingo boards in your packet? We talked about it, so it would be kind of we don't actually have it in there.
Refer to bingo board. What does it look like?
Thanks. Good morning. It's Sarah Brower. I'm the library director. I've been here for a little over 4 years. Today I'm joined by Emily Sheehan, who acts as both the assistant director and the children's librarian, and has been here a little over 1.5 years. We also want to bring your attention to the members of our board of trustees and our friends group who are supporting their friends t-shirts. They are our creative support group, our club selectors.
Good, Amanda.
Yes.
Could you have your friends of the library and on the board raise their hands so we can all see?
They're
Okay.
pretty amazing.
So,
And we have more, but. Yeah.
Today, we will go over the agenda as presented. Feel free to ask any questions along the way. We will also leave time at the end. As an added bonus, you will notice we have created a bingo game card. We would love to see how many of the library services you have utilized. And if you win, we have a little prize for you. Go with you.
Okay.
Over the course of the last year, our staff continued to offer tremendous service. This was even while we suffered through lingering pandemic effects, new illnesses, and understaffing. We sadly lost staff to full-time jobs with benefits and generally could not fill positions due to low interest in a small pool of applicants. Our current staff should be commended for keeping quality customer service a priority, providing all of the current services and adding new services to keep our patrons engaged and informed. While this is not an ideal or even a recommended way to go about improving processes, it does reveal that our most important and versatile asset is our staff.
So for the fiscal year 2024, we asked for an overall budget of $1,070,025, which is 3.6% higher than 2023. And in the next slides, we will break down each of the categories briefly for you.
The library currently has 12 union positions. 11 of those are within the support union. Our additional 13 staff members are non-union employees. The increase in salary and wages was driven by the contract negotiations of the support union. Also, in support of our strategic plan, we began creating positions that were more supportive of our current and future goals. The first of which is the communications and programming coordinator position. As mentioned in a previous slide, we had a difficult year filling positions, especially for our popular Sunday hours. To help attract applicants and encourage some of our part-time non-union employees to pick up this shift, we added a 25% differential for those that work on Sundays. We did lose a half-time custodial position, and most of the custodial duties are now covered by an outside vendor.
I'd like to jump in. I'm gonna find it hard not to jump in a lot of these budgets. So, you can tell me to be quiet if you'd like. Well, actually, you can't. I'm kidding. So, for some reason, until last year, the library staff that was union over 20 hours was on a different wage scale, even though they were in the support union. It was very strange. And literally, this came up like 4 or 5 years ago, and it finally got into the past contract. So there were increases, and quite frankly, some of the increases were just to get some of those folks to the minimum wage. We did codify that last year. I can't even tell you the amount of work that Leanne did on that with Pat McHale, trying to figure out what was a fair negotiated wage scale. So those folks are now in categories in our support union, so that they're paid accordingly. So it's everybody in the support union now. That's number one. So there is a little bit of a bump that's reflected in 24 as a result of that. Number two, one of the savings, and that is reflected in town hall budget and in the library budget. We had 2 custodial retirements last year, Paul Baldy and Wayne Wysocki. They were custodians. Wayne was half-time at the library, half-time at the firehouse. Paul was full-time here. They were longtime employees. Between the 2 of them, I'm almost embarrassed to say it was $200,000 with wages and benefits and all that stuff. That cost is now at the library, how much total? 25,000?
25,000, but that's now on my operational expenditures, so that you'll see an increase
Right.
in it, yeah.
And on the town hall, you'll see that reflected too. So that was negotiated at the same time in the support union contract that we could subcontract out certain contracts, certain services, custodial services at the town hall, firehouse, and library. And that's all we can subcontract out in the support union contract. So just want to say there are savings, and those savings are significant, both in town hall and permanent, probably $130,000 going forward for, forever. But these services will go up a little bit too, but not that much. But go ahead.
One question on that,
Yeah,
is the service a daily service as well as when you had the other?
So the service is different because what I have right now is custodial services. So I have cleaning 6 days a week, but I don't have the same maintenance that I had previously. So that I'm struggling with, and I think that.
Do you
needs
need
to be
other
addressed.
service contractors to do the service work? Is that what you're saying?
We have a service contract to do custodial work, so they clean 6
But
days.
what
a
I'm
week.
asking, do you have a maintenance contract over and above that?
No.
Which would add to the expense that you
Well,
had?
there's 2 things. We have maintenance of HVAC, okay? But then there's,
Right, but that's
Right,
always been
right.
separate. Yeah.
but maintenance, I think what Amanda's referring to is there's a handrail going up the
Right.
stairs that's loose. Who's gonna fix that? The toilet is running on the 2nd floor. We need somebody to run over there. So we do have somebody who's 20 hours a week, and we have Dan. And so usually
Dan does that?
we still have
Dan's
Dan.
been on the roof
So-
before.
So we will call Dan and Ed and say, get over there or get somebody to go fix it. And that's typically how it's working. It's not perfect. We're working through some kinks, but it's getting, for the most part, tell me it's getting done, okay? All right, let's move. But anyway, yeah, so there's maintenance,
So you're
items.
working through the question.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Thank
Is
you.
did you find that the magic number of 25% differential got your Sunday coverage that you're looking for?
We are open.
We are open
We are open.
by the skin of our teeth. We are open. For, we have to have a certain amount for safety. We have 2 floors, so we have to make sure we have at least 3 people in the building
Right.
on a Sunday. So we are there. I'd like to have 1 more, just so that we can offer, when people come in and use the rooms and things like that, that it's just, there's more functionality on a Sunday, so. All right, so, next slide. Oh, so, this $14,400 increase is in large part due to changing employee choices in insurance coverage. We also saw an increase in workers' comp and defined contribution. I don't know if you wanna,
I'm going to talk about that. I think I mentioned we're going to talk about that later in my remarks.
okay,
How some of these budgets have increased in defined contributions as new employees are switched into the plan. And those totals are in the individual budgets.
the 1.3% increase in operational expenditures was related to what most consumers are currently feeling, the increasing cost of services and utilities. We had an increase in our cleaning contract of 11%, a company that cleans 6 days a week, with 25 or so employees in the building and an average of 220 patrons per day. The building needs to be cleaned and maintained regularly. As I mentioned last year, but it bears repeating, our new boilers have helped increase our efficiency in energy expenditures, but the increase in the cost of energy supplies is overpowering these gains currently. We had an increase in our fire systems maintenance contract, but we also saved for our membership to the Connecticut Library Consortium. CLC saves Connecticut libraries millions of dollars every year through publicly bid contracts. They saved us $34,000 last year buying books, supplies, and databases off these contracts. And I think that was about an $8,000 increase of savings that we had from them last year. So that really helped. So we can buy more things.
Question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Last year, or the year before, we gave money for new doors in the front and the
Yes.
back of the library.
Yes.
But because you put a new heating system in, or what you just spoke about, were able to tell the differential between just the new doors, keeping the cold air out from where your service desk is, and savings on that versus the energy savings on the heating system?
So we definitely, I mean, I think part of the reason we installed those doors was for safety as well, because I think, right now we have the interior doors are not sliding. And there's one, apparently Dan says there's like one company in the state that actually services the doors and he can't get them to return his phone calls.
Okay.
So are we saving so much right now with the doors, the interior doors wide open? Probably not. But we do save from them not opening and closing every 20 seconds. I know, you know, the boilers have saved the money, and what else? What part of the question?
Well, you save money on the new heating system, and
Yes.
I want to know if there's a differential between the doors saving you money and or just the heating system saving you money.
I
You gave
think
us a
it's
number
really
where
the
it's down
efficiency.
altogether.
I think it's really the efficiency of the boilers. I mean, they put up like 92% efficiency.
Also, the doors were somewhat for the comfort of the folks working at the front desk too.
Well, yeah.
Whether there's a quantifiable number of $100 a month or whatever, just getting a blast of cold air or hot air at the front desk, I think that's one of the reasons they were put in.
Certainly, but we were talking about energy, so that's why I brought
Yes.
that up. Thank you.
Yep.
Are we shopping the electrical and natural gas costs as a town whole?
Yes.
Okay, As in-
Less with the Board of Ed. But I think, is Board of Ed on, I can't remember whether they're on our CCM Titan account. I'd have to look. But, we right now, for January and February, have returned to the utility for services, and both the town and the library for January and February are going to see a bit of a spike in electrical costs. But we were at about 9 cents. We're gonna be at about 11 cents coming up for the next 7 months.
Yeah.
We only have a 7-month contract because they were looking for sweet spots in the market. We use Titan Energy Services through CCM. So we're hoping that over the next 7 months, we can then lock into another contract that is hopefully favorable in that range. There's no question it's gone up.
yeah,
Even though natural gas has gone down so much, we can't get it here in the Northeast because of the pipeline issue. So, and everybody's natural gas.
oh, yeah.
Right? Everybody's natural gas.
We did add in a slight increase to cover the cost of the 2 heat pumps, as this cost was creeped up each year. The cost of each heat pump varies depending on which two will be replaced in the rotation.
How many more years do you have to go to replace all of the pumps? You had 34 pumps.
We have 34 pumps, and I think it's never ending.
Yeah, I think, John, what will happen is
Replace the.
We're just
over the
keep
course
going.
of 17 years, you're gonna always be replacing.
Yeah.
it.
What percentage increase in cost have you had since the program started on the pumps?
So when I first started about 4 years ago, it was 15,000. Now we're at about, I think, what was it, 16, 70 or something this year. So it's about 1,000
So
a year, if you will,
it's been relatively
steady
steady.
increase.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it stayed steady. And I really do think it depends on which size pumps, because they heat different size areas. So the pumps are, depending on where they're heating, they're gonna be manufactured different stuff. Bigger.
Thank you.
Not here. Okay, sorry. To summarize, our overall budget will increase 3.6% to ensure we continue to pay our employees a more competitive rate, cover increasing energy costs, and to cover a very minimal operational increase to allow us to keep offering quality services and programs.
Now that you know how much you need to budget for the upcoming fiscal year, we want to showcase all the great things we were able to accomplish this past year. What you see in these charts represents July 2021 to June of 2022. We had a great comeback from pandemic numbers. In comparison to 2019, we were only 3,000 items less circulated. Last year's circulation per capita was 7.71, and we are at 10.57 this year. Overall, what that means is we have increased last year's circulation by 31,000 items.
The number of residents with a library card is always a good indicator of use by the community. We are happy to report that library card registrations were up 5% over the past year, and the highest it's been since 2015. Our digital media, which now makes up about 15% of our overall circulation, and our databases are only accessible typically through a library card, so we encourage everyone to get your library card today.
While we have had many years in the past where our library visitors per annum were over 100,000, we were pleased to welcome back so many people after COVID. In 2021, only 19,700 people entered the library. But please note that we do not count the patrons who use our outdoor spaces, come to a program on the lawn, or visit us at various community events. One of our biggest accomplishments was the depth and breadth of new and inventive programs we offered to the community. 747 programs were offered, ranging from our very youngest members in the Babies and Me Story Time to our teen volunteer initiative, up to the one-on-one tech times that generally draws a more mature crowd, especially when we offer sessions at the library.
And I do want to commend Emily because she does offer so many of the programs that people have been asking for. And I know I've talked to people in various boards and commissions who have sung her praises. So, you know, we have a great staff, and I just want everyone to recognize.
Question. On the previous slide, in-building visitors,
Yes.
I didn't hear what she mentioned, what the asterisk is for on the 57902.
The asterisk is actually that's what we actually have. So we have door counters on both doors. So what we have, the 57902 is who actually came into the building. So she mentioned, we don't count the people that are out in our patio doing programs on the lawn, out visiting us at the farmer's market, things like that.
Those are actually in person.
Those are actually in the building.
Right, very good.
So
Do you track your digital presence?
we do on various databases, we do. And as I mentioned, you know, we track our checkouts, and that's, like I said, 15% of our circulation at this point. But, you know, things like, you know, Ancestry Library or Job Now, which is a interview and an interview database. We also track those numbers too of usage.
And how are they? Are they growing faster than in person?
They're growing at an incremental. We saw a huge spike, you know, over the past years, and they've kind of leveled off and gone down, and we've seen more people come back and using our physical collection in our space again. We've seen a huge increase in people using smaller spaces in the library, like our study rooms and meeting spaces. So that's, I'll talk about that later when we talk about our space, but it's, it's kind of the digital is kind of leveled off a little bit. But the cost of those, databases and what do you call it, digital ebooks and things like that are increasing.
Yeah.
So, sorry, this is Henry. I don't know if anyone's been to the library and seen Henry, our read dog, but he's one of our new staff members. That t-shirt is a 2XL. At the heart of our accomplishments for the past year are the goals we're meeting from our strategic plan. We have made new and have created stronger nonprofit business and educational connections. We've increased our technology offerings, offering the weekly one-on-one tech session, monthly technology classes. We purchased a 3D printer and are now running classes on how to use it. And thanks to the Rotary Club, we have 10 new laptops that we can offer classes into outreach. Yeah, that was a great part. We've also reworked our meeting room policy to allow for more civic-minded groups to use our space than in the past. If you've been in the library lately, you might have noticed that we have a lot of items to check out that are not just books. We've acquired items like our Dimension memory kits, puzzles, and games. We are also expanding items in different formats such as digital, audio, and large print. Plus, we continue to grow our library of things. Did you know you could borrow a label maker, a metal detector, or a light therapy lamp? I'm in handy right about now. They're all just great.
Amanda, have you seen any increase in the children's department? In usage?
In usage?
My God.
Absolutely.
And I've been,
Yes.
just because I think I started, 2021? Year before?
No.
Anyway, it was like right as we were coming out of like pandemic lockdown, and we would have like a handful of people. And now I just went in the other day, it was buzzing in there. It was amazing to see families coming back and meeting. And the program attendance has been extraordinary.
Do you keep a separate number of, can you tell me how many people are actually designated to that particular section of your library?
No, we don't have a door counter in the children's.
You don't have
area.
a door count?
No.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, we just, we'll do the statistics of her programs. Like, I think we just had 70 in one of your.
Last week we had 72 people and singing sound. It was overwhelming, but it was good. It was fun.
Have you expanded your hours availability on the children's library?
It has the same hours as the library.
Same hours.
Yeah. It's always open.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so during the course of our strategic planning sessions in early 2020, seems like forever ago, with community members and focus groups, the use of our space was a persistent talking point. While we have a great location with appropriate parking, the way our internal space functions leaves a lot to be desired. We went through a feasibility study with the architectural firm HMA2. And if anyone wants to see the architectural feasibility study or our strategic plan, they are on our website. And feel free to email me. I can always give you the link. Through the information we gathered from our strategic plan and in turn this feasibility study, we came up with the following needs. We need storage. We need more study rooms and meeting spaces, a dedicated teen room, an expanded outdoor programming area. We realized during COVID, everyone enjoyed having outdoor space, comfortable mobile seating, and revised arrangement of collection service points and computers. We have learned these items will help us continue to be a community destination for the future. So with thoughtful space planning, some new flexible and mobile furniture, revised service points, we'll have the ability to provide a community, a place that meets our current needs and not the needs of a library from 23 years ago when our last renovation was. The concepts from this plan are the foundational blocks that our posted RFP for architectural services are based on. That's out on the town website right now.
Good question. Could you expand further on what an outdoor programming area is?
So, you know, people are using the gazebo, or didn't you just expand the gazebo on the green?
Didn't expand it, replaced it.
Replace it, yeah. paper. So, you know, we could have some speakers, expand the area, maybe have a, you know, more outdoor seating, a garden area, just more learning opportunities and gathering spaces, maybe more comfortable seating outside as well.
I mean, at the library grounds?
Yes, yes, yes. The board, actually, we went and visited other libraries and saw how they were using the outdoor spaces, and hopefully we can incorporate some of their
So
ideas.
like you
into-
have benches outside?
Yeah.
That would be there year round versus seasonal?
Yes. Yeah, we leave our furniture outside most of the time,
Yeah.
yeah, but.
But you had a pretty robust outdoor program last couple summers.
We have.
I live close by, I think.
It sounds like Angel.
In that case, expand the hours.
Night hours.
More nighttime programming, please.
Question, Carl, where would they, if they had to in the future, extend or expand?
They're
the
not,
library?
there's not.
That's what I was gonna ask.
No,
We're just gonna keep
not
going.
up. No, it's basically, so with the USDA feasibility study, we had some renderings, okay? With the Tucker Fund,
Yes,
we are now doing an RFP for an architect to actually redesign space within the library essentially, and maybe suggest how to use outdoor space better. So the RFP is out, architects will interview, and then they will, whoever is chosen will design a set of plans. That architect will be paid from the Tucker funds, which probably about 1.2 million or so, I'm guessing.
The salary?
No,
No.
No,
Actual work, you want to sign up.
no. We do.
What, the amount in the fund,
The Tucker Fund that Bill Tucker started when they built the library.
but not the architectural 1.2.
I hope not.
Yeah, I hope not too.
Let me tell you something, the architectural drawings could be relatively significant though.
More so than the work.
The plan is, I believe, the plan is to use the Tucker funds for that.
Yes, I will also be looking at a Connecticut state grant.
But last year or the year
That's up to
before,
about $1 million.
you came to us about needing money to redesign the interior already.
Right.
So this is still in progress?
This is still the same progress.
Okay,
Yes, same, yeah, we took a hiatus, I
right.
want to say, yeah.
I just want to make sure we're on the
Yes,
same
yes.
architectural
It's
person.
it's nothing new, it's just we're motoring along.
Okay.
Is there still a ball field behind the library? Is that, because it used to be a ball field, is it now parking
Oh, the.
behind the library?
fields For the elementary school,
Yes.
that's still there, but it's the elementary.
It's the elementary.
Okay.
But we definitely have space inside. We're hoping not to change the footprint. I mean, there's space that we can
At
expand.
some point, you might have to, though. That's what I'm getting at. And it's, you know, I'm talking another 23 years down the road.
Yeah.
That's planning for
It's
the
like the
future.
next board.
Yeah, there you go.
Amanda?
Yes.
Before we go on to the forward or bingo, I had a question about a previous page on the employee. So when you have a minute to address that with me. Yes, still on this page. The USDA grant was originally around looking at the possibility and the redesign for co-working and makerspace. It sounds like ultimately that's been pushed out a little bit in the sense of scope. The question is, did the concept of co-working and makerspace stay in the new plan, or is
Yes.
that?
Because I think the overall theme of all of our designs is that the space no longer is just this sedentary space, it becomes mobile. We're using mobile furniture, maybe you use mobile storage so that you could have like a maker space. Maybe you throw up a 3D printing program in the middle of the floor, you know, you're gonna move your items and not everything is just stationary. You can put up walls or we're hoping to become more mobile and more flexible within our design, which is hard for us sometimes to think, oh, you know, sometimes we want the chairs where they are, but we do have to evolve and realize that, you know, not everyone's going to use the space in the same way. And we're trying to work through that. And And I think the feasibility studies really helped us realize that we have a great footprint that we could do a lot of things in a better way.
So said differently, my
Yes,
words, not
We
yours.
still have money
Yeah.
for,
I guess because in, in my world with ARPA funds and things, people are talking about the need to develop co-working space in
Yes.
town. And so I'm just want to make sure that whatever is happening on that side is not either in conflict or duplication with what's happening. And it sounds to me as if you're not going to have dedicated co-working space, maker space, you'll have available around the right configuration. Is that probably?
I would say that's a great way to say it. Yes. And you had a question?
My question was back on the page with the employee benefits, 13%. And one of the items that was on there was called staff turnover. I'm
Yes.
not sure if you addressed that enough for me.
So we have had a couple of staff members that have moved on to full-time jobs with benefits. And that's always been a tough one, it seems that we have these great employees that are coming in and then they're turning over and going to a library that has a full-time job with benefits.
Okay.
So that's, in the future, I would love to see a couple more jobs that we retain these people, because we put a lot of time in training them and they're great. And then it's like heartbreaking to see them go because they take all their knowledge with them after we've just trained them for like a year and a half, so.
And the way that affects the budget is that when the new employees come on, maybe a person that was on the defined benefit program left, a new employee comes on with the defined contribution plan. And so that line item for defined contribution increases and help to push that whole increase up to 13%.
So it wasn't just the benefits issue, it was more of a full-time position opening and they moved on to a full-time position?
With insurance.
Right.
Yeah, that was definitely one of our, yes,
Okay, thank you.
You're moving from 20-hour positions. or-
20 or 30. We had one that was 30.
30 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. And 35 would make them full?
Yes.
How many total employees are there in the library? And how many are
It's a very low number. Right now, we're at about 26. I think I just hired.
And how many full-time?
There are full-time, I am three.
Just two people? Three.
Great. I had a circulation, Emily and I.
And you don't have a full-time in the children's library?
She functions as a.
I'm sorry, Emily. I didn't- Thank you.
So, sorry, have we looked at, so to move from a 30-hour position to a 35-hour position in terms of like retention, have we looked at like?
So that would
Also there-
increase, all of a sudden, they could have a family plan.
Mhm.
So that's $30,000. Dental, another $1,500. It would increase workers' comp, FICA. So it's not just going to 35
Right.
hours, it's the benefit
Right.
list that adds the real expense.
Don't you think part of that sign of the times, you're kind of have a condition that people are looking to increase their income?
I mean, I think I think people go into this field, they get a master's degree and they want a full-time job with benefits. Yeah, it is a sign of the times. I would want that. That's why I have this job because, I went to school, I did my time, I love the field and I want to support my family too, so, yeah.
Have you ever looked at, just going back to Matt's question, let's say there's 5 hours and hearing what Leanne says, so associated with bringing that person to a full-time position is $10,000 to $12,000 increase relative to both salary and the benefits that we're talking about. But programmatically, what does that mean? What's the kind of programmatic offset of being able to A, have 5 more hours and B, not have to go through the process of hiring and training and interviewing and all the things that you've got to do in order to get that person there? I mean, it seems to me it can't just be a financial decision. It ought to be something that's looked at more holistically. And have you looked at it that way?
we are, and it is actually part of our strategic plan to make sure that we're getting, you know, the best of the staff in the area and we retain them. Yeah, I think that offers us a lot of more flexibility with what we can do with our time. I mean, the past couple of months, I've spent a lot of time making job ads, posting job ads, interviewing, training, you know, it does seem that it is a time killer. And it's, you really want to make sure that the field stays strong, and that you're supporting these people. But, you know, sometimes it's hard to see someone and say, like, we'll get these, you know, some applications and they're totally overqualified, and I know that they're gonna leave.
Yeah.
So,
So if you divide
Yeah.
that number by
So-
10.
Couple things. I mean, right now, it's tough to get people. It's tough to get people. We're struggling at DPW with full-time jobs to get people. I think you'll see this in a lot of the departments. They can all use more hours. They can all use, more people, more benefits, you know, more of everything. I mean, Park and Rec, how many hours a week are you open?
58.
All right, Park and Rec is open, you know, a little bit more than that, not much more. What? 80, and they function with 2 or 3 full-time folks and a lot of part-time folks. You know, it's literally a funding question, right? You know, Youth and Family Services and, you know, I'm sure they could, we made someone full-time there a few years ago, so another person. So it truly becomes this, you know, what are the services? I hear what you're saying, looking at it holistically. Are you losing money as opposed to saving money?
Right.
I get that. I don't know that we, you know, studied that, but it's harder to find people right now, period. All across, I mean, Park and Rec struggled to find, that part-time 30-hour week position.
It took us about a year.
So, anyway, that's just a comment. I mean.
I think sometimes it's about the reputation of the town and the management also. I mean, so if Amanda has a good reputation as a boss, people are willing to work with her and not worry about the money so much as working with a great person or with Carl being a good manager, you know, so I think some of that is a reputation. That's my thought. So thank you.
We're on logo. Our brand new logo. Happy to present our brand new logo and tagline, another goal of the strategic plan. We wanted a recognizable, approachable, and flexible image that was more representative of how the library was functioning in town. We wanted to stay with the yellow and blue of the town with a nod to our coastal environment.
So that brings us to the future and our focus on the upcoming year, which is the community. The library is not just our four wall, but it also reaches into people's homes, phones, and other communal spaces. The library board and staff will work towards picking an architect to design our future physical space. This will allow us to provide new services and function in new ways. But who makes these things happen? The staff. We will continue examining the job description, the organizational chart, the hiring criteria, the training opportunities, and the compensation to ensure our staff is the best in the region. We are already off to a good start this January with programs like Anne Frank, A Life to Remember, Storytime and Sign, which is a primer to sign language, Intro to 3D printing, and a variety of drop-in and in-person crafts and activities. Our goal is to engage as many people in the community in the way they feel most comfortable.
Now comes the fun part. We want to see what you've done at the Acton Public Library. Did you know that these were things that you could do or things that we had to offer?
Matt.
If you didn't, we invite you to come in and explore because our library is way more than 75,000 items on the shelf. As soon as you're done, we do have a small gift with our new logo on it, of course.
I am amazed at the amount of things that you're offering in the library. And I'm also amazed at how little I know about it as being somebody who is active in town. And so I would strongly suggest a much greater digital presence, maybe going on to various different Facebook, Old Saybrook Facebook sites of the, did you know that we do this? I mean, the idea that you could get a winter lamp. I mean, these are the kinds of things that would, maybe not anybody would do it or everybody would do it, but it would attract attention of, oh, geez, what else do you have there as a
Right.
result of it? And it just seems to me that, people think of the library and people my age in particular think of the library in one way, and you guys have expanded well beyond that. But how do people know about it? And you got to do more than just hope they walk in the door and see it. You got to really get out there. And hopefully that's part of your strategic plan, but that to me is kind of a critical piece there.
Yep, it is. Yeah.
We're actually working on that
We're,
right now.
we're, and I mean, we're on
Our social
Instagram,
media
we're on
presence.
Facebook, we're on Twitter. We have newsletters, we're on the sign outside, we go to the farmer's market, she goes to different, children's,
Have you worked with Jennifer Donahue at EDC much in terms of, because.
no, I thought I'd let her get her settled in.
So
Couple of
the
days.
reason I say that, and we talk about Park and Rec in the same way. I love that other people from other towns might be coming to the Acton Library. Because they're gonna come here and they're gonna eat lunch, or they're gonna do something, or go to one of our retail stores on Main Street. So I like that idea, and maybe to Bruce's point, working, closely with other departments, if possible. I know you work very closely with Youth and Family Services. So that's one comment. The other comment is in terms of staffing, public libraries, not associations.
Municipal.
If you want to, perhaps supply to me, and I can supply it to the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, staffing, what does Clinton have? I don't know all the public libraries in the area. I
Right.
know, I think Essex is an association.
They
Is
are.
that public? Yeah.
They are.
And Old Line too,
They are.
yeah, so they're not public, right? So,
Well, they are, but they're just, they're fundraising, it's different, yes.
okay, so, Westbrook is public though, right? I thought.
They're municipal.
Yeah, so if you wanna, I don't know if there's a staffing chart that you could, ask your.
There's
director for.
salary studies and that,
Well, I know salary studies, but I'm talking about full-time employees versus part-time, because I'm assuming the structure is similar.
right, I think I would pull from similar angelic ratings and sort of, yeah. Yeah. Really. Okay, I don't know if anyone can read this, but I'll read it to you. So with that, we'll leave you with the words of Carl Sagan. The library connects us with insight and knowledge painfully extracted from nature, of the greatest minds that ever were, but the best teachers, drawn from the entire planet and from all our history. To instruct us without tiring, and to inspire us to make our own contribution to the collective knowledge of the human species. I think the health of our civilization, the depth of our awareness about the underpinnings of our culture, and our concern for the future can all be tested by how well we support our libraries.
You want applause?
I'm
I
gonna
may
make
report, Mr. Chairman.
I'm gonna-
I'd like to speak, my name is Susan Espy for the record, and I'm speaking as a resident of Old Saybrook. And as many of you know, volunteer for many different organizations in this town. My comment here is to bring your attention to many things that were listed in the report here. As a volunteer, and member of many different nonprofit organizations, through problems of COVID and meeting places that had to be closed due to maintenance issues and things, we were faced with the problem of a meeting place at the last minute that could accommodate the people that we needed, whether it be a small group of 5 or a group of 15. And I can't say enough times how many times this past year I've had to call up to the front desk of the library and say, Please, do you have a conference room? We only need one for 5 people. We only need one for 10 people. I don't want to be on the bottom floor because we're going to have major discussions. These people, the part-time staffers, the people in the front, they have been so helpful in making sure that these organizations that don't have a regular meeting place were able to meet. And that has happened so many times. We've had to use the library's facilities for printing, for looking up on their use of their laptops, because we don't have, many of our small organizations don't have a lot of overhead. So we had to use these facilities so often, and they have made sure that they say, hey, I can't accommodate you at 1:30, come in at 2:30. They bent over backwards. So in this project here, when you say they use the facilities and how often they use them and whether or not there's a count of how many people use it, I can tell you on a first time basis that they bent over backwards this past year to make sure that nonprofits like I belong to were able to still do the business that they needed to do.
And that comes from the old Saybrook Chamber of Commerce, volunteer of the year.
There you go.
I've also, one of your new ones, one of your breakout rooms, or I used my nephew to do college essays, prep one Saturday morning from like 8:30 to 1. It was great, great room, great idea. I know it's probably heavily used.
Yes. Very.
So,
Anybody else?
So while we're commenting, I was at that event yesterday that Emily ran with 72 people, and I have a picture of it on my phone, which I turned off because it kept ringing. And it was unbelievably amazing how inclusive it was, all those kids, my little grandbaby, and that's the second day in October. It was a phenomenal event, and it was welcoming, and it was great, and I was really appreciative of that option and opportunity we have here in Old Saybrook.
I have goodies for all of you, whether or not you want to make.
Whether or not you want bingo, we still like you and we're still gonna give you something. So that you can bring it.
Logo.
Yes, with the logo.
With the vote.
We'll just ride it out. Do you want to move on to your? Are we gonna solve that?
Thank you very much. I like sweating stuff. It's great. It's like anything I
We're all gonna have matches.
love it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
What's right here?
Oh, that's so we can stay awake during meetings. Just add a little nip to it, well, that, right? But keep them up.
We need to get in here.
Yes.
You're right.
Is that mine?
That one's yours.
Ray, what do you have?
I have my smile and my beauty budget.
He's getting cut.
Not a frisbee golfer.
Yeah.
I'll get you something.
It's bigger than you are.
Yeah, I don't know.
Some of this.
Any general, the Park and Rec is great. Hi, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Sorry, I don't have any bingo card for everyone, but do have an exciting budget here. Obviously, we all know Sue Essie. She is our chairwoman for our commission. Jim Henderson is also he is our secretary of our commission. I'm not sure if there's anyone online from our commission.
Not true.
Nancy Gott is also on our commission as well. So, thank you for having me this morning. Our budget, as you know, we have 4 different budgets within our park and rec budget. We have our recreation budget, our Vicky Duffy Pavilion budget, our mini golf budget, and our parks budget. And I think you'll find that the total budget increase for all 4 is 2.9%.
That's right.
And we're just gonna go right into it. So our first budget that we have is our recreation budget. This particular budget houses many, if not all of our salaries. Only salaries are not included here is our mini golf salaries. It includes our full-time employees, as well as our part-time employees and all our outside facilities. Some slight increases in the very top line is our full-time employees. Those are contractual, increases in that particular line item of $9,000. That includes myself, which is actually a contract year, so I'm sure you just put in 2%. Jonna, who's got his contractual increase, Rick Pine, and Tony Blau, and also Nick, who is our teen center coordinator. So those particular line items are actually support staff contractual line items. So those are why those increases are reflected there. Our next line item shows an increase of $5,000, which is actually only an increase of $5. Down the line, you'll see a decrease in other salaries of $5,000. Leanne and I decided to combine those 2 particular line items. That's why that shows an increase there, but in actuality, it's a $5 increase. Leanne decided to make it a $5 increase to make the number even. The original was $2,095. So that's why that particular line item is increased. The third one down is a $1,000 increase. I'm moving over our concession stand employees that were paid out of a off budget account and moving it into this particular account to pay them, as all our other outside employees are paid out of our budget. And I needed to increase it $1,000 to cover the expense of where we're going to be with those particular employees in that particular line item. And then the fourth one down there, which is a large increase of $4,000. Those are our parking attendants. I know it says facility attendants. It's actually parking attendants. I think I missed my numbers last year when we had our increases, and that's why I needed to increase it this particular year to get it where it needs to go. All our other increases that were due to the minimum wage increases from the state are included in this past budget. The next increase will be in June. June 1 is the last increase of that. We'll get everyone to $15. And we're seem to be locked in right in where we need to be with all those line items for all our employees. So that worked out very well. The next set of line items are increases or decreases. Those are contractual stuff that Leanne has put in there. And that's why those are shown as they are. And then as we move down, we have a $1,000 increase in our purchased property services. That is actually our porta potties that we supply at our different parks. The cost of those have actually increased, and that's why I needed to increase those particular numbers. We have actually decreased the number of ones that we do use, but the offset of the increase in what we do use is a little bit greater. So our new bathrooms that we have, particularly across the street and at Town Park, they're excellent. I don't know if anyone's actually used one of them, but I have not received one complaint about them, and they're really great.
The new facility across the street by the pickleball courts, they lock automatically
No, if we need to lock them, we lock them ourselves.
every day,
They stay open. I don't lock them.
24 hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
When I first got in, I tried to go over there and they were locked.
Because we weren't ready yet. I remember
Right,
you
right.
called me. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're saying they're working 100%.
100%, yeah.
Good.
I'm really amazed that there's actually no smell in them whatsoever. They're just a pit toilet that gets cleaned every 4 months.
And someone monitors those every day for adequate supplies
Our
inside. and
public
everything.
works department does that. We actually just had to add shavings to them the other day.
Say that again.
We have to add shavings, they're actually, they're called white wood plank shavings that you can get at the local hardware store. And you have to add that to the compost material, and they just did that the other day. It's done every time you're supposed to put 2 toilet paper rolls in, you're supposed to put one of those in there. It's a $7 bill of wood shavings, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ray, you have 9 porta potties in front of the Saybrook Point, facility.
9 porta potties?
Yeah, not porta potties, waste baskets.
Oh, garbage can.
Yeah.
No, so those are actually all the ones that are around the park. We actually moved them there the other day from the storm. They wouldn't blow over. It's just a safety area in front of the pavilion. They just simply haven't got moved back yet.
I have 2 questions. One, are you paying monthly on those?
No, that's a contract that the town has with Always. So each one of our facilities, each one of the parks, has a set number of garbage cans that are at each park that are within that contract, and that's the number that is for that facility.
And they're all spread around between there and the park on the other end?
So we usually have 4 in front of the pavilion. We'll have 3 in front of mini golf, 2 actually in the mini golf course during the season. And then there's 1 that goes all the way down at Gardner's Landing. We've kind of moved that one back because people were abusing that one. They were throwing immense house garbage in it, so.
The only other comment I would make is if we rent that space out to the public and they have parties or baby showers, whatever, it's not very,
It doesn't look very good. I
it's an
totally.
aesthetic issue.
Yeah.
For me, well, not really for me, for my wife.
And that's important.
Made me promise to ask the question.
No, absolutely.
So Ray and I recently talked about the Big Belly, solar powered garbage bin, garbage compactors essentially. Ray had a Zoom meeting with folks. I did get the invite eventually. I just didn't find it at the time. So is everybody familiar with the Big Belly machines? Not machines, they're garbage compactors, basically solar powered. And they store, you have more.
It's 150 gallon, you can get a unit that's 150 gallons. And it is solar powered compactor. So when the garbage goes in, it's a self-contained unit. It's literally like you're putting mail in the mail. You open the slot up, put your garbage in, you slide it in. It gets to a certain level. It's a sensor in there and the compactor will compact it down. And then they'll repeat the process until it's filled up. You have an app on your phone that tells you when it's filled up. And then we can contract with Always to have them emptied, or we'll empty them ourselves, one or the other. I believe it will be a better unit. They are certainly better looking than the green cans that are down there. The stench that does come out of some of those should be eliminated, and it is a lot less grabbing the top of the lid that's just dirty, opening it up and throwing your stuff in. And the liner, there's a liner that the garbage goes in, you can take that out and clean it. Certainly you can just clean the handle, and there's also a foot pedal option on these, so you don't actually have to touch the handle. You can hit the foot pedal, it'll pop out for you and throw it in. There's a cost involved with them. We haven't quite figured out. They're about cost effective. It's 172 a month to rent them. Or you can buy them for 9,000, I think.
7,000 to 9,000. They're expensive. They're expensive, but
And there's a recycling option as well with it, because we're required to have recycling in all of our parks.
I would suggest that you consider for the first year renting them to see how you like them first.
Oh, right.
Because
There you go.
depending upon the models, I used to deal with them a lot in Boston when I was with Waste. And some models were very good and others were questionable. So if you're gonna do that, I'd
it's not a
recommend.
bad
The
idea.
rep actually recommended renting them as well, like the maintenance factor of them. If you rent them, they're technically still theirs, any maintenance they come down.
So, why don't we look at, so there's a couple issues. Well, we have concerts on the green, and I emailed Ray repeatedly on this. I'm like, when there's a concert on the green, we need to make sure we have enough waste bins out there, because the next morning, there's just garbage strewn in places, and I'm like, we have to put extra barrels out there, so. That's how, when I said to Ray, I said, look, maybe we should consider some big bellies on the town green. But I don't know if you can rent them for 1 year, there's probably a
No, I
5-year.
think it's a 5-year
Yeah.
service contract with
That's-
them.
So. What, I'll tell you what, we'll take a look at a proposal to maybe get one and see if we like it and see if we can, bear the cost, but I totally agree with you on it, aesthetic.
I agree with you too. It's just, we just have to store them when there's a storm, because if not, they go everywhere and they get knocked over.
Well,
That's
not the
where-
big bellies, you're talking about.
No,
Yeah.
the ones we have now, that's where they get put. The boys just simply didn't.
The second part of that, Carl, is I really think that whether it's this year or next year, we need to consider looking at collecting our own trash and putting it into the transfer station. You're up to what, $30,000 a year for that,
Yeah,
and we've got our own transfer station, and there's ways to make that happen relatively inexpensive with the current staffing you've got. I think it'd be a good saving, or at least an offset to another employee that might be time or whatever, different ways to look at it. But
I think there's certainly pros and cons to that. Certainly, a pro would be we could empty them anytime we wanted to. But the con is there are a lot of different cans, at each facility. It'd be a quite time consuming, I think.
right.
Well,
So maybe looking at a combination of
both,
that, Rick,
yeah,
with a couple of big bellies. might
Yeah.
Save on the
save
labor
a lot,
cost.
yeah.
So,
it'll offset.
we'll look at that.
Be interested what those big bellies are like, and if you put them at the point though, it's salt water, if there's sensors and different things inside of them, I wonder what they'd be like down there. Long term, if we bought one.
I did ask that question about outdoor, and, because they do have them all in Boston, like Rick said. They certainly never have a problem. This company's been in business for 18 years.
Yeah,
now.
we've been around.
Yeah, so they've kind of gotten around
I'm
that.
assuming they're relatively reliable. Middletown put them all on their main street a while ago. I don't know if they're still there.
Ray, since I don't believe we need the big bellies in the wintertime down there, can we rent it seasonally only?
I don't think so, but I can ask that question.
And the other question is reference to John is, can we contact the high school art department, have some of those barrels painted so they look more?
They can be wrapped as well.
Yeah.
And you can have advertising on them, so if
Yeah.
someone, if a business in town wanted to advertise on garbage cans, they could.
Well,
Go to
and-
Plymouth,
and
Massachusetts,
John,
they do it everywhere.
Yeah.
Electrical panels.
Well, that's one way to offset the cost.
Oh, absolutely.
I think the Park and Rec department might have to sign off on that a little bit.
And the other thing with Carl,
Not a bad
and
idea.
keeping our town green clean, nothing like having a sign saying, in order to keep these premises clean and continue with the, please clean up after yourself.
Yeah.
So if nothing wrong with having a sign here asking the people to clean up after themselves.
Absolutely. I think on the town grid would be a great place for them. Number one, the garbage cans we have out there, those were an Eagle Scout project about 15 years ago. And they're just a wooden box around them, and they're dilapidated. They still look great.
Some of those on Main Street have been changed.
Well, he's talking about the ones, they're actually on the town green. They're the old style.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, on Main Street, they're fine.
Yeah.
So, and one of the other, and Ray referenced it already, one of the other issues with the barrels is people dump household garbage.
Yeah, every-
And
These you can't do it.
tons of it, so,
Umbrellas, lawn chairs, you name it, they go in the.
but that's not an old Saybrook issue, that's. Anyway, go ahead. I don't want.
Sign. No household garbage in the barrel.
Well.
That's correct.
Tom, the way you solve that problem is video. Is say this is under video surveillance. And then when you see it, you can act on it.
But I mean, I'm not looking to put more burden on the police department. I'm talking about self-reliance. Clean up after yourself,
It wouldn't be burdened on the police department because they would check it. They'd go down there and they'd see all this household garbage and they'd say, let's check the video from the last recording videos and updated term recording from the last 24 hours. So there is a method, I think, that we can use.
And it seems to happen at the point more than all the other facilities, by the way. I'm not sure why, but
Even 30 years ago, we had garbage from Guilford coming into our transfer station, until we put a stop to it.
So we'll look at maybe a combination of things, signage. Everybody wants to reduce signage, not increase signage, but I get, maybe you can go on the barrel.
Yeah.
Something like that. I like looking at advertising. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but that could
Be careful
offset,
not saying what it is.
offset the expense.
Why should all the buses break all the revenue from advertising? You know,
Fair point. Never thought of it.
thank you.
We're talking about. The next line item that is a slight increase is building, maintenance of $1,000. I was over, the past fiscal year. Cost of things have just gone up and we're just fixing things, so, I needed to increase that line item slightly by $1,000. And then we go down, $300 increase for printing and binding. Those are essentially our beach passes. We increased the number that we bought, so I had to increase the number slightly of where we're at. So we actually used to buy 3,500, we're up to 4,000 now. So that's why that slight increase is with our beach passes.
Hey, Carl, is there a way to maybe save some of that funding? I mean, they're looking at what, $2,000 for doing,
I'm sorry, where are you?
for the printing and binding and so forth. What if you did the, change the transfer pass to a town pass and half of them are red that are good for the beach and the blue ones are good for the transfer station?
So, the printing and binding is for what, programs or for?
Our beach passes.
For mostly beach passes?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just make it a different color so you know. And combine them.
So Larry Bowman and I, for the past few years, have always talked about what type of pass we could use for both. The problem with the transfer station pass now, it's good for more than a year. And our passes are only good for 1 year. So they have to buy them every year. So that was one issue. I always thought we could combine them somehow. I just don't know how we can physically do that. If your transfer station is good essentially for ever when you have it. I mean, it's not, you don't have to get them year after year either. So that is one issue.
Let me check on one thing. CCM offers a printing service. I don't know if they'll do it. I don't know if they do something like that, but they do. It's a wide array of printing services and they do it for next to nothing.
Okay.
So I can look at that.
General supplies, a slight increase of $600. I was over again last year by quite a bit, but those were some of the things that I had to get for the bathroom at that point. So it's not that big of an increase that need to happen down there. Ball field upgrades is a $2,000 increase. Again, price of product has gone up. Ball field upgrades, we also include our contract for our company that does our fertilization. Their price has also gone up. So, those things have gone up quite a lot of fertilizer. So the contract that we have for them has also gone up. But that also includes our overseeding program that we do every fall with my seed for all the fields. Our turfus product that we get from the field, all those things have gone up. So I needed to increase that particular line item.
We need to combine that with the schools.
In other words, I'm never combined what part of the schools.
Fertilizer and the.
So the company that we use is not the same company that the school uses.
Can we look into looking at that together?
We could, certainly.
Isn't the schools using the stuff at on top of the hill to fertilize now?
The only problem is the school has a different set of regulations as opposed to what we have. So
There's a restrictor, right?
they have to follow a state IPM plan of what they have to do. And ours, we're not required to do that. So it's it's a completely different program.
I forgot about that. Right.
Ray, you don't have the trouble with the beach like the school has, right?
Not really, no. We did have it at Trask for a little bit, but I put up a fake coyote and it seemed to work. So,
And now we got some real ones over there.
Oh, yeah. That's for sure.
there was a fox singing at Town Park yesterday too. So, game room supplies, I went up slightly. It's just seemed to be going through a lot of different pool sticks there, ping pong paddles, things of that nature. I did buy one other video game, actually about 2 other video games. Things have just gone up slightly. That one, and it's not really increased in the years. So our recreation budget shows an increase of $22,736. very minimal, for the size of that particular budget. We move on to our mini golf budget. This budget is actually decreasing by $869. The major reason why it's decreasing is that you see the communication line item of $1,920. That is getting moved over to the IT department, due to our Wi-Fi for all our parks, that particular line item. There's a few of those line items within our budget that are all moving over there. That's 6,000, which is quite a bit. So, but other than that, the mini golf budget is really quite small in any of the increases that you see there. $300 more electricity. I just figured 10%. We have to go with Eversource with our electricity source down there, as with all our other parks. So there, everyone knows, contract with Eversource is 6 months. It won't start till July. Hopefully that goes down a little bit when we get to this particular thing. So I just went with a 10% increase. We try to cover some of those costs. We should be fine. As you can see, we're only $18 over from the year before. So I'm hoping we should be okay down there.
Ray, have you looked at integrating solar at some of these parks to basically get rid of some of the electric bills it does because it's so minor?
I have not. I think our solar output at mini golf would be pretty small footprint before we could put them. They usually go on the roofs.
Well, or the freestanding, on the corners in the back of the mini golf out of the way. It wouldn't take much to make you 100%, you know what I'm saying? You don't use a lot.
Right. I'll look into it.
It's a small job. I mean, I'll look into like the Duffy roof.
And that could certainly use it. Sure,
That could do that whole area
yeah.
and then some.
It's some total time with that, so.
I just don't know if it's too small a job, that's all.
Yeah, if it was down the roof, we wouldn't have to worry about flooding.
That's right.
You say that now.
Yeah, up there too, so.
Yeah, well, that's what we talked about. In a hot water heater.
That's actually a good sign, but.
That was Brad's idea.
Yeah. Any other questions on the mini golf budget? We'll move on to the next budget, which is our pavilion budget. As you can see, this shows me a decrease of $1,440. Again, that communication line item really made the difference in this particular budget. And some small increases, again, with the electricity and with our water sewer. Just slight increases. Cover some of the costs. That particular budget is going down. And our last budget is our parks budget. There's an increase of $2,100. Again, there's the top 4 increases there for repairs and maintenance, just slightly been over in the past few years with all those particular line items. So I need to increase them slightly. The lawn care that you see there is our outside vendor that does a lot of supplemental work at all our parks. Freddie Castro. And his prices have increased slightly, but he does a lot of work for us. And really can't find people to work for him. I know, but he really makes our parks look really well. And the best thing about Freddie, it's literally a phone call. I need you to do this, that, and he's there. Okay, buddy, I'll be there too. So,
Yeah.
He's really good with that stuff. I really appreciate what all he does for us. And again, our electricity up slightly, just like trying to do a kind of eventually the number truthfully. And that's our particular increases for our project budget. Any questions on our parks budget?
Ray, can I just make a recommendation from a presentation standpoint?
Sure.
Maybe what you ought to do for, kind of the recreation budget, mini golf budget, and Vicky Duffy Pavilion, is maybe the top line you could show what the projected revenue is going to be. So then, it's not all an expense question. There's a revenue question. So being able to understand that, for $81,000 or so relative to mini golf, we're actually bringing in that,
Sure.
Kind of a fiscal note.
Right.
I do have it later on in certain pages what we've
It's a
made,
good idea, though.
but put it right there, it's great, yeah.
Question. Ray, we talking about the internet for the different beach sites?
Mhm.
And are we able to eliminate the landline telephone if we put internet in there?
No, we still need, a phone at the beaches for emergency purposes.
Just a hot phone for the police department?
It's not just the police department, but, people do call Harvey's and ask what their hours are and things of that nature.
Okay, and who answers that? At the main building or outside at the gate guard?
Well, at Harvey's Beach, the phone is in the booth there as you drive in. It's in that particular booth. At Town Beach, it's in the concession stand and in the garden.
Okay.
Not that the guards ever answer it, but it just happens to be that's where the phone goes into.
And the 2320 represent phones. And what's the breakdown on that for cell phones versus landlines? How many cell phones do we have?
We don't have any cell phones.
No cell phones.
All our part-time staff have their own cell phone, but I don't allow them to use it.
So this is all landline and internet?
Yes. Well, it will be,
Right.
well, it will
current-
be in his.
Current internet.
Correct. So we don't have internet at the beaches. It's just a phone line.
Correct.
We do have Wi-Fi at Mini Golf, but that's a phone line and Wi-Fi.
Okay, good.
As well as the pavilion required, that's the way it was, but we don't have a phone there.
So you have a lot of functions going on in there and the Wi-Fi is
Yeah, so people use
for
it.
the feed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which thank God we're moving over to Comcast because we are with Frontier. We haven't actually had internet down there since November. And with 5 service calls, they never showed up ever. So we just dropped them.
Was that Frontier you dropped?
Frontier.
Yeah.
So they're making a big move in town.
Yeah, they
are. They're not getting our
With fiber service, so so it should be better service, but we'll let that play out, go to Comcast, we'll figure it out.
Thank you, Ray.
You're welcome. So all 4 budgets combined show, represent $818,000, 273. And you can see the breakdown of what that number represents. 63% of that budget is salaries. 15% of that budget is insurances. So, 78% of our budget is really, required to do business, truthfully. And then the rest of it is very small, representation of what it is: electricity, water, gas, phones, things of that nature. Maintenance is around 10% of our budget. So
How many facilities, really?
19 facilities, or parks, side parks.
Ray, and the 20,400 represents, of course, the splash pad.
It does, that. So to answer your question of what we spent on the splash pad, from May to December.
Yep.
It was, about $14,000.
Attributed mostly to the increase in the price,
And use.
or the usage is about the same, you think?
I think the use is about the same, if not more. Certainly during the pandemic, everyone was outside. It's a very busy place. Yeah.
And that's been modernized some too, right? Did you put a new pad in?
It will be in the spring. We couldn't do it.
Oh, it's coming.
The way the contracts went with him and awarding it, it was just too cold to really set up. So we had to wait for the spring.
And last year, the year before, all the other instruments in there, like the little horse and everything, that's all been updated and replaced.
Well, there's no horse in there.
I
But...
thought there was like a little horse that somebody
Well,
rides.
some of the toys in the play.
Oh, you mean the plate?
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah, that's all been
it's all been done.
I think it's on the splash pad.
No, no,
No, that's all been upgraded, new mulch in there as well.
It's huge.
Ray, I see in your capital, you've got $14,000 to redo the basketball court. With the new sidewalks that you put in, and I mentioned the other night to Carl, the parking lot now, because everybody gets out of their cars. And on those wet mornings, the tennis players and everything else, I don't know if you've noticed it, but you could see their footprints going down that nice new concrete because it's all mud. Or it's all, have you?
Process, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've done so much work down at that park. Shouldn't we put more effort into probably finishing it off by getting the parking lot done cleaned up and maybe lined so that,
I would love to see all our parking lots done, truthfully. There's-
well, that's the smallest one I think
Yeah.
that you have probably, so it's easier to slide in, especially with our, everything going on. But I think that money personally would be better used in that direction than,
I would love to do that, and if we can somehow incorporate that in the public works paving budget, maybe. We could.
that's up to Carl.
Yeah.
Okay.
And line it, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, the basketball court is used a lot, but if you're gonna look at the priorities, I think one is a little higher than the other, honestly.
I was actually very skeptical about the sidewalk, and I'm just happy we did it.
Yeah.
I think it adds a lot to that park.
Yeah, it did.
It really did.
Ray, have you or in the future, any plans for making ARPA applications or do you qualify?
We would qualify certainly. I just did not this past round because we used all that surplus money. And a lot of those projects that I was going to apply to ARPA, we got the surplus money, so there's no need to do it. So the second round, I don't even know, is that open yet?
No, that's not yet.
No. So I would certainly be willing. We have other projects we can do,
Good.
for sure.
And me too.
You still open it, really, too?
Is that?
Is that what's left over? $1,000,000 too?
Thanks for all your hard work, by the way, Ray.
Thank
You and your staff.
Again, just another representation of how the budget looks. I always like this particular slide just because of it just gives a different view of it, and you can see the purple aspect of it is the income, again, that we bring in from to the general fund, and that income includes our revenue from our beach passes, our revenue from Harvey Beach, and our revenue from the mini golf course. For this past summer was $436,000.
What about Vicky Duffy Pavilion?
That goes into a different account.
Okay.
An off-budget account that Leanne, I'm not positive what you call it. But
Thank you, Duffy.
We bring in between, it's been a little bit less the last year, obviously because of the pandemic, we haven't been able to, but I do project around 10 to 12,000 for this particular year.
Why is the Vicky Duffy income on budget?
Some of it comes onto the general fund. So we did make that change, and then other.
I just give her money, I don't know where she comes.
Yeah, yeah. So we do have income coming on the general fund. In fact, we just look really quick on what we budgeted last year. Like $5,000. Yeah, we budgeted $6,000 from the Vicky Duffy rentals coming into general fund.
When you said revenue from Harvey's Beach, where's that for?
Sale of parking every day.
Okay, and that's not part of the town sticker, or is that?
No, it's not. So anyone can go to Harvey's in the world. They just have to pay a daily fee to park there. Our town residents can still go there with their sticker for free. But if you're from Essex, you have to pay the daily fee.
How much is that?
It is $15 during the week and $25 on weekends and holidays.
And it's packed.
And it's packed. We brought in $121,000 there this past summer.
Down part of the 436.
Correct.
How much is in the offline budget now for Vicky Duffy, roughly?
In the offline budget,
Or the off budget account rather?
I'd have to look that up. I can look that up at the break too, but I don't know the answer to that.
Oh, I know you might have just an idea roughly.
Yeah, I don't have an idea. We have $100 off budget account, like,
Oh,
yeah, so. But I'll check that for you.
okay, thanks.
Again, the next slide is just a representation of our recreation budget of a little breakdown of where we stand. Our staffing year round, we're around between our full-time and part-time, around 20 to 24 people or so. In the summer, we jump up to between 55 and 60 people, and that includes all our mini golf staff, our parking attendants, lifeguards, wet staff, things of that nature. As you can see, the breakdown of the individual recreation budget and where we stand with that. Again, our mini golf budget, again, just a quick breakdown. The summer income that we did receive from mini golf is $265,000. That's a gross income. Certainly a few years ago, where we've been putting in $2 into our sinking fund. So this is just represents the gross income of what it is of what we brought in for that particular summer.
What's your thinking about right now?
I believe it's 210,000, somewhere in there. Again, we did use, for our disc golf course, we are using 35,000 of that, so we've spent around 32 of that money. So far for disc golf.
And that project's done, right?
95% done. We still have to put signs up. We have 3 more baskets to put up, a little more keypad to build. And then our signs, we're working on those.
You ready to go, Eric? You ready to go?
We can go today.
You can go play right now. Yeah.
The weather's great.
Yeah.
No snow.
We've actually had during the break, there was a group of college kids that played every day. Quite cool. People get out there already. So it's a really cool course. When we're finished, I'll certainly give a presentation to the board so you guys can see all of it.
People should just go out and walk it.
That's right. There are some beautiful parts of that park that are now exposed that you can get to, that we do not have a trail to, that are just gorgeous. The canopy is really high. You get to overlook the swamp. It might not, I call it a swamp, but it's just really a pond. It's a really nice spot. It's just beautiful back there, really quiet. So a really cool area where we built this. So it's nice.
Ray, on a side note, whether they've done it already or it will be very shortly, there is some grants and funding coming out specifically for trails. And
Yeah.
just so you know.
Yeah. Again, the next slide, Vicky Duffy Pavilion, just a breakdown of where we stand with that $14,000 and what it represents. Utilities is the majority of that particular budget. And the same with the next slide with the parks budget, just a quick breakdown. They're pretty much evened up a third of where we stand.
So, I'm thinking about it. So that is, I believe, a great asset to the town.
Yeah.
It's not much of a building, but, what I've been through there, I mean, I've been to conferences, we had a party there in December. What needs to be done there? Like, is it good the way it is? What needs to be
I
done?
think it's great the way it is. We are gonna add Zoom.
Yeah, right.
Wi-Fi, drop down things so people can use it more.
Because our business meetings down
Yeah,
there.
absolutely. That is in the works as part of the surplus money.
What do people ask for? Anything else?
They asked for a stove, things like that, but I don't want to get into anything. I don't think we have room for
We
any of
don't need
that.
people cooking.
No, do not need.
They ask for alcohol is what they ask.
Well, they can have
They
it.
can have alcohol.
They bring it in.
Yeah, you have to fill it, when you're filling out your form, there's an alcohol permit. It's a $25 alcohol permit for beer and wine only.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
No hard stuff.
No hard stuff.
That's what
I'm
I'm.
not twisting. John goes straight to that. We tell people beer and alcohol only. I'm sure there's been parties that they brought.
They make flashes. Come on.
I don't know. If you want to have a mimosa, that's fine too. That's not beer and wine.
But what I'm saying is, the people who use it, you find they're mostly satisfied or.
Mostly satisfied. A lot of them like to use the patio, which unfortunately I tell them they cannot because it's public space. They like to rent that out.
I just wanted to see if there was an upgrade of something that would.
A question on the carpet. Did you ever consider putting in one of those, snap together good quality floors with, the waterproof 100%? Because I find that a lot of times, musty damp smell in there.
There has been, you're absolutely right.
So
on
if
that.
you got rid of the carpet and put in one of those waterproof floors.
Yep, it certainly was looked at last time when we did replace the carpet. My fear is just a slippery factor.
They have them now that
Yeah,
are slightly porous.
yeah.
That, you probably wouldn't have that problem.
Well, when
The
you look to
other
replace,
factor is noise. So when you deal with the floors, not just the slippery factor, you have to see how much noise factor of a small area like that would be. So when you're having conferences or presentations from different organizations.
Yeah, the other thing you could do is put a acoustic on the wall,
They did come out with some commercial squares. So if let's say you put a dig in one, you can change them out that are also waterproof that are carpet.
Carpet squares?
Carpet, commercial square.
Yeah.
So if somebody burns it, cuts it, spills something on it, you could just change that one square.
That would be a great idea too, because the carpet that we have now, the seam is in a high traffic area. I asked the guy last time when he did it, can we move it? He's like, "Well, it's just how the carpet has to get cut." And now as you can see it, the carpet's 4 seasons now on it. There's a slight pulling apart of that.
So we can look at that.
Yeah.
Who owns the parking situation down there? So the town is all town parking,
It's all
by
town
Vicky
parking.
Duffy,
Yep.
until you pass Mini Golf, correct?
That's private property.
And then that's when it becomes,
Yeah.
do you
Parking
ever
is
have
a-
an issue?
Well, we have an
Mini
issue
golf?
every summer. Every
So-
summer.
Why are hotel patrons and people then using that lot? Because they don't have enough parking there, right?
Correct. It's actually more staff, truthfully.
Yes.
The first, as you drive in by the flagpole in that first parking lot, if you went down there right now, you'll see probably 20 cars in there, all staff from their point.
Talk to Steve about that.
So can they rent those spots from the town then? So we get some money if they're gonna continually do that?
Then we would lose out on being able to rent out the building.
But they're parking there anyway. So
So
if you're,
then it becomes an issue of how can we, it's, the parking is
Enforce.
for Saybrook Point Park,
right,
right? So do we hire an attendant to sit there and say, are you going to Saybrook Point? That's a different house, you go over there. Do we stay at Saybrook Point Park? Oh, yeah, I want to go to Minnetonka. We're toying with that.
yeah, it's hard.
And we haven't done the painting of the traffic, design. That is due. We got waylaid because of COVID, we got waylaid because of, storms that came in an untimely fashion. But now we hope this spring we can finally get the traffic pattern correct, the cars come in one way, they go out the other way. As it is now, you can come in 3 different directions.
There's no break.
Yeah, I was just curious, because I've been down there plenty of times in the summer, whether it's going down and play mini golf or sometimes it's my kids just want to go hang out in the park down there. So we go down there and hang out, and when you go to the park, it's okay, but when you go in a mini golf, I mean, parking is very different.
Last summer, I put up A-frame signs, big yellow, they say A-frame, our patrons parking only, and still didn't.
All right. So much, yeah, I need to get with Steve.
All right, I have a question.
Sure.
On your Vicky Duffy, budget, I see that there's no mention of income.
Compliance. Doesn't make it right.
Correct.
Well, you said it was 22, about 2,200. Now,
She said 6,000 on budget.
She budgeted 6,000. Before the pandemic, we're about 20,000 that we bring in. After the pandemic, so far, I'm gonna project around 10 to 12. It's just been rented less. Just people
So
are,
for the past year,
yeah, we really started renting it again in September this past year. For example, we had a party, last Saturday, it was supposed to be there. They canceled because they all had COVID.
Oh,
You know,
right.
so it's been tough, you know, it's been hard. Do they pay like for They do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something like that. Although, so we have COVID, we can't give them a refund. We do have a refund policy. Prior to 30 days, you get so much. After 30 days, you don't get a refund, but I mean, special cases like that. I have.
These are all town residents.
Yeah, I know.
No, it's not.
on the next page, park budget, is there a income associated with that?
No, all of our parks are free to go to. So, except for Harvey's Beach, I mean, if you want to consider that, and that is, I guess, part of it, but, for the most part, all our parks are free to go.
But the other number on the first page, I talked to you about the 400 and some thousand, that encompasses all income to general fund, 436.
Correct. That encompasses
Everything.
Harvey's, Beach Passes,
Okay, good.
and,
Thank you.
yes. Onto our summary page. There we go. Just, showing each line item and what it represents as far as, this is our recreation budget, the first one. And it is, the first set of it is fixed increases. And the bottom set is of 10,000 is of budgetary increases. So, more fixed than budgetary. And the same summary goes on for the mini golf, pavilion, parks budget. And our next one is our goals and accomplishments for the past year. I always like to see this because it's kind of a overview of what we're doing within our facilities and our parks. So, certainly our objective, way what we've accomplished, but that's okay. You know, there's certainly a lot of things I want to get done. And we all know that money is tight all around, so these can be some of those things that we can apply for ARPA funds for, as we talked about, which would be great. Some of them can just be done in-house, if we, like, for example, the restriping of the parking lot. That's something that Public Works can help us out with, things of that nature, so.
What's involved with the repair of the seawall at Verdant Landing?
Well, we included that in our grant that we applied for. If we did not get that, we'll research other avenues to get that.
Probably.
We actually have another spot on that wall this past week, have it cave in undermined, so we have to fix that again. So it definitely.
It's a several $100,000 job, really, from where Dr. Dine is to Gardner's Park. I don't know exactly what that number is, but I'm just gonna guess at this point, it's $250,000 probably to fix the seawall. And it will get fixed, it has to be, so.
Ray, what's going on at the town beach gazebo there? You've got it taped up.
Oh, so the storm that we had over the holiday break, it was right before Christmas, I believe. Our ramp that went down was simply just sand, it eroded it all. So, when we redo the beach in the spring, we'll have that back. We had a lot of erosion at the beach that storm and the last storm as well. You notice that the beach, we have the neighbor's seawall, it's actually their retaining wall, not a seawall, is completely exposed now. All the sand is going off there, and our wall that's there is now, one's this side, now it is this side. It's,
Why is that wall there?
why is it there?
Yeah.
We found that wall around 10 years ago. We used to have sand that was over that wall. It was completely buried. And then one summer it became unburied. I mean, one winter it became unburied. We didn't even know it was there.
What was that again?
In the fifties.
The wall that's on town beach.
Oh, yeah.
The sand from coming on the road. And then through the years, the sand has accumulated, so you don't see the wall sometimes.
Yeah.
But that was done way back in the early fifties. Wind blow stopped the sand from going on the road.
The stairs that you'll be putting in from the pavilion will go over that wall? Or will
We
it go
won't-
to the wall?
We can't do stairs.
You're gonna do just.
Oh, yeah, we'll do a sand ramp again.
Okay, so it'll go beyond that wall.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Goals and accomplishment again on the next page for our, this is, the first one is our parks and other things. The second one is our recreation stuff. I just included mini golf in it as well. And as you can see, program wise, our rec center, we have over 150 programs that we offer a year. Our recreation center is a hustle and bustle area. It is quite active year round, from the summers to our summer camps that are housed in there, to the winter, to our indoor soccer, basketball, people walking the track on a daily basis. Our teen center, we average over 30 kids a day in the teen center. On Friday night, we're around 60. Walkers are around 40 a day. We've had a big increase in January. I'm sure it's the January to go get some exercise. But also we offer the estuary members to walk on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And that's been a huge increase in the number of estuary walkers coming on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So the place has been very busy. I'm very happy with how the recreation center is there.
Ray, is that area blocked off of just general citizens or is it only estuary walkers that time period?
On Tuesdays and Thursdays, everyone can still walk. Yeah. It's something we did with the estuary years ago. They had approached us, hey, how can we have some of our members utilize your facility? Something we just came up with and they can utilize the walking track. So it's a nice partnership we have with them.
Is restriping of a parking lot at Saybrook Point, is that the lot we just talked about?
So we wanted to control the flow of traffic down there. And we were going to do it right before COVID, and then we had testing site down there, so we couldn't do anything. That went on for, I think, 2 years. And Chief had promised me that he'd do it after his testing was done. I think it's done now, hopefully.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I just need to get together with him on that. So again, you can see our conclusion of our budget. The total increase of 2.9%, with some various fixed increases and some very small increase of $23,000. So, how would you like me to handle capital? You want to go through it, or is that with the capital committee?
So we've already done it with the capital committee. I don't know.
Why don't we hold off on that?
Okay. So that's all I have for my budget. Thank you very much. Sorry we didn't have any bingo for everyone.
Hey, Ray, could you update us on where you stand with the concession truck down there still that I keep asking about? With,
Down at Harvey's Beach?
yes,
So, the commission, past commission meeting voted to approve the, application process, for the upcoming season. That application process is due to anyone who'd like to apply, by March 3rd. Once I receive those applications, I'll bring them to the commission meeting and they will review them, and then they will make their decision on their vendor for the upcoming season at Harvey's Beach.
and I keep saying this and I'm concerned about it because the fact that the current one you have there does not remove her truck during the winter time.
She did this year,
In the past, she has not.
because yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
but she's hooking up to a large propane tank that's not the code, because you can't do what she's doing. And in the past, during storms, the town crew has to move it and get it to a safe area, which they brought it up to the town garage. I just don't see from a liability standpoint and an overall perception that that's the appropriate way to be doing business with something like that. I think you need to consider something more permanent if you're going to do it that way.
Okay, I didn't know that town crew was moving it during storms, number one. Number two, if you can't have a permanent structure, that was the zoning regulation that was
Okay.
required when we.
Well, she's not following the zoning that was put in place for her to begin with right now. So, I mean, that's a moot point.
If she's hooking up improperly to a propane tank, you can certainly have the fire marshal, right? I mean, that's.
She does have to get inspected every year, so I'm not sure
Yeah, so,
Well,
how
it's,
that's happening.
you just can't do what she's doing. I can tell you that without
Okay.
doubt.
you know,
but
she should be told that she's responsible for moving. I mean,
And the zoning, she's not following what was put in place for the approval of that from the get-go. So, if we're gonna follow the rules, let's follow the
Why
rules.
don't you guys look at that? I'm not sure what the details of that are.
Well, that's why we're trying to expand, the region for our request of a vendor. I think Ray can tell you that we've gone through, different, restaurant associations. We put it out for, our local restaurants if they're interested in doing it. So, obviously, we don't know if we're gonna have the same vendors this year or not, because we don't know who's responding to our request. But we have tried to expand the area, to see if there's anyone else in that business that would like to have this concession stand. It's some of the past problems. Yes, I agree. We had problems. We tried to negotiate through them and get them out of the way. And we are very cognizant right now, and we've had a major discussion on our commission to make sure of some of the items you just mentioned are not going to be overlooked or, and I'm going to say overlooked, because we're concerned about that as well. But the idea of a truck, we define it as so long as it comes in, it stays there for, and doesn't move out every day or every weekend, that becomes a concession stand. Just because some people say, no, it's a vending truck, but it isn't a movable vending truck. It's there for the season and then it goes out. But to your point, our commission has had major discussions to say this is going to be something we're going to be on top of.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be difficult about it. What I'm trying to do is to show the need for something upgraded down there and do it the right way. And which it supports your need to get the funding from various areas to hopefully be able to make
to
that.
your point on our strategic plan, our second phase of it, that Harvey's Beach is definitely number one. Our town beaches I'm gonna put the two beaches together. They're definitely on that because we do see needs for the town and for our residents to use those facilities.
Yeah, I'm
So
just,
I'd really love it if the town would buy property.
well, the concern is first of all, the insurance, because they're hooked up to electrical, they're hooked up to propane. If something happens to that truck and it takes down that pavilion, or pavilion, the beach house there, what's gonna happen as far as being able to replace it?
Yeah,
Because we all know what's gonna happen. There's gonna be a significant problem. And it's gonna have a direct impact on everybody.
Yeah.
Because you burn it down, you're not putting it back the way it is. And it's gonna cost us a whole boatload of money. And I don't think for what did you get last year for your application or for somebody to be there?
What is $750?
For a $750, is it really worth the risk, is what I'm getting at? I know it provides a service, but let's do it right instead of,
well, and I know that even as business people, we have to weigh that out. To your point, we did raise the cost to $1,000 this year for an application. The other thing is, when people go to Harvey's Beach now, when they spend $25 for the ticket, they expect certain amenities. And one of them is they like that type of menu and they want that. And we have to say, well, if you don't provide it, then we may not have that many residents or visitors going to Harvey Beach. So it's a balancing act, and we're trying to keep it in mind, but more importantly, we have, as a commission, we've been committed to making sure we stay on top of those issues.
yeah, the other thing I want to discuss, when you have large events down at the beach, that the townspeople get the priority parking first, because more times than not, I've seen elderly folks park down at the other beach and walk down to get in because there was no parking for even the elderly, to get in there. And not to mention that the fact that most of them were our town residents as opposed to out of town people coming in. I just think that we need to really look at our priorities with regards to our own residents.
A tough spot for a big event.
It is.
And it's very tough. We have a great draw down there for our concerts. We really do, as you know, Rick.
Like too big, really.
It's,
Yeah.
It's really-
traffic thing.
it's gotten bigger through the years, certainly. We've explored shuttles, things of that nature as well, to alleviate some of the parking down there. So.
It might get to a point where it's town residents
Town residents only, yeah.
for parking and shuttles for out of town people, or something.
Those are things we've certainly looked at, Sheriff. Anybody else?
Yeah, just one comment, and I don't want to open the door on the whole capital piece, but the capital projects, really look like it's, kind of annual maintenance that needs to go into things. And I know we've completed a strategic plan on some of our larger parks and, facilities. I'd really like to see in the future that we start to get a bigger sense of how capital projects are tied to some of these big kind of strategic objectives and the plan, and how we're kind of coming up with a plan. It might not be in 1 year's budget, but what we're doing for making these big steps forward. So it's just a comment.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you, guys.
We want to take a 3-minute break before we do economic development.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Ray. Hey, Carl, just one note. Obviously, they did the due diligence on their painting. Did you see how much it cost to do the ceiling and that place compared to what the school put in for their gym?
Yeah, but the school one was a combination.
Thank you, Leanne. Yeah, if you break it out, you ask me what the difference is.
What did it say? What's the?
No, you gotta ask her, because I think you're gonna be surprised.
Just under 5,000 here,
Right,
and they were 70,000.
yes,
But that included,
the walls and the ceiling.
but it also included scoreboard upgrades. At lights,
But
right?
if you ask for a breakdown, and you look at it, I can guarantee you that paint is gonna be 4 or 5 times that. It's not here.
Yeah.
At $70,000 for scoreboards, shot clocks. Yeah, but I mean, the last ones we did were under 10 grand for 2.
Where? Do you don't remember where?
I think it was the middle school that they did.
But I can give you something because
I'd be curious to see what the breakdown of that
So,
is.
yeah, I would too.
Because when you see $5,000 for the same size of a year, roughly.
I like to see the high school students make a little money by holding the numbers up
There you go.
instead of the scoreboard.
No, I just said, it's a perception.
One of the most basic, so for an outside scoreboard, like at a ball field.
Oh, that's where it was. It was out on the track that we did.
So
Not yet. but I'm
what,
gonna
like the
take
most
pictures.
basic one you can get, it looks just about like that, just from one company.
I haven't talked.
Yeah,
It was
that's on my list.
$6,000 for the scoreboard, but not installation.
Okay,
So maybe 8 to 10,000.
okay. So again, let's say, I'll give you 15 to the install. I've been looking at 7.
You know, the other night, I did, after leaving the Board of Ed meeting, we went to the high school. And
Oh, Larry.
it would be interesting to see the breakdown. I think they do need to paint it. I would agree.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
I think.
But why would you do that before you did the floor to begin with? Yeah.
They did the floor over the winter. This is the last time they can ever do that before again. There's soft spots in it.
There you go.
No.
Hey, Joe. Joe. Thank you so much.
Oh, no,
I know.
So let's go. Park and Rec, budget was like 800,000. They brought in 400,000. So that leaves, total expense for the town, about 400,000 to have Park and Rec, correct?
Correct.
Okay, divide that by 10,000 for the per person, so about $40 a head.
Yeah.
For Park and Rec.
Right. So. $2.
Probably get some off the bucket for a second.
Planning.
I almost been on the cup of coffee.
32,000. Some of that's going
It's
into
gonna-
that
yeah.
getting fund.
Right, where they got off the.
Yeah, but they-
Probably.
$2 was
Right.
off the golf course, right?
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I was slow motion with it.
I wanted to make sure my back got too old.
I did want to move, but it's like, I don't think there's really too much.
That's right. I was just trying to make it quicker for you too. Because it's across.
I couldn't tell, whether they do or not, but.
Okay,
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for taking your volunteer time to be here. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jennifer Donahue. I started as the Economic Development Director at the end of May. And, so this is my first time before all of you. The Economic Development Department, as I'm sure most of you know, there's a number of hats. We want to have tourists come here, we want to support business, we want to help develop properties that need either redevelopment or initial development in town. We want to have a vibrant community, that involves, our business community as well as some of the other groups in town. Talking with Susan about how, we all have a lot of shared goals about making this community a place where people want to live, work, and play. In general, our budget this year is up a little bit, as you can see. That is mainly due to changes in the department structure, related to me. So the position was upgraded 2 wage grades from what it was previously, and also 5 hours were added because of some additional communication pieces that have been moved over in the position. And then, if you look at the next slide, there was also a change in salary for the commission clerk. We found that to be competitive in that area, we needed to raise the hourly rate a little bit, and that's just off of economic development. That's across the board with all of our clerks, to make it more equivalent. There was sort of a disparity between what some were being paid and others were being paid, so. I don't know if any of you have any questions about those.
Well, before that, I want to comment briefly. 10 years ago, we went from a somewhat dormant commission. It existed. And we hired Susie Beckman. And it was a pretty small budget, part-time. Susan was getting back into the workforce. I will give all the credit in the world. She made lemonade out of lemons, okay? We interviewed 2 people for that job back then. One of them was the retired economic development director from Middletown. And the other one was Susan, who had been 10 years not working. And we hired Susan because there was no budget. And I was like, if we hire this other guy, he's gonna come in and say, I need money, I need staff. And so we went with Susan, and she really built up the department wonderfully and focused a lot on the economic development piece, did a good job, started a lot of things in town. She left for an opportunity in the private sector. Jennifer was an internal applicant and immediately entered into negotiations with me on why the job wasn't, the skill set that we wanted, I would say we at this point, I'm convinced, was of a higher level. It was a level 7.
Level 8.
It was
Same
level
with
8,
town
which is
hall admins.
our town hall administrators, the folks that support us in our offices. Jennifer's like, I think you want a higher quality person. And I will tell you, I've known Jennifer for a long time, but she's a much higher quality person. I know Bruce has worked closely with Jennifer too. And we also added some responsibilities. Jennifer briefly mentioned communications, but happens to have an English degree. And I don't know what your degree is. What is it? It's an English degree. And she is an excellent writer. And I can tell you that is reflected in the grant writing that we're seeing, and in the communications that we're putting out. Susie was excellent. This has nothing to do with Susan, okay? So what we have is I think it's definitely a more robust department. There's more hours. It is higher pay, but I think it is, for a director, it is the correct level if you want a quality product. And so that's a little bit of the background.
I'd like to add to that she's our secretary for ARPA funds. She's done an excellent job.
Yeah, so that was before she got into the economic development role, right? That you were as ARPA. But I mean, you've seen right? I mean, putting together either some PowerPoints or charts and stuff like that. very capable, and efficient, I will say too. Jennifer came on years ago, started out as a freelance, kind of helping us with the town report. And our town report is of very high quality. I think I've had people from other towns tell me how much they like our town report. Our town report is well done. I mean, it really is. We put far more effort into our town report than I think a lot of other towns do. And it's a good product. So anyway, I don't want to take over the discussion, but that's a little bit of the background of where we are.
And just to clarify on that, so this extra 5 hours, that puts it at a full-time position then, or it's still a part-time position?
Part-time,
So it's at 30 hours now?
I think so, close to 30, right?
All right, thanks.
And one more thing, also the harbor management clerk, and has, they began with new software, and so I think, I don't, Jerry, you were there, but I don't know who started the new software on that program, that, the mooring software. Is that a-
Oh, no, that's.
So they've also become a little bit more efficient in terms of, I mean, think about the moorings in this town, right? So I don't know, that's going well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway. Enough of me.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Well, I mean, if I can elaborate any more on any of that, I'm happy to. And then you can understand, you know, some of the background of why the change has been made. I mean, I think that his account of the history of the program and how it has developed over time is what has really led to this. The success of the program and to continue making a high quality product for the town and to continue moving in that direction. I think the decisions that have been made will support that. Because of that change, and also because we received a $100,000 ARPA grant, we did not ask for any additional budget increases for this year. That funding that we're going to spread over the next few years will allow us a lot of creativity to work with the business community. And
Talk a little louder.
Yeah.
oh, sorry. So just to show that there's no change in the operations budget this year, only in the salary budget, because we also did, and I can talk about that probably in here later. We received the $100,000 through the ARPA process. The Economic Development Commission applied for that funding to do a project focusing on our main street and our business community, and that's going to be spread out over the next 4 years. So we felt like with that additional funding that we received and the change in the salary, that we didn't need to up the operations budget at all this year. Some of the other accomplishments that we've had this year were participating in the expansion of the Starlight Festival. This was the second year for that, and it really was a community-wide effort, not just from a number of departments in town, but also from a lot of our nonprofit organizations. It was really great collaboration and culminates with the Euro tree lighting at the Cape. But from an economic development perspective, this year we were able to expand the activities with the business community and also add a restaurant piece where we had a number of restaurants offer specials and also the areas that offered live music, which actually worked out great because it got rained out. So to have another reason for people to come to town, even though it was raining, was a bonus. We also added a trolley this year, and even in the rain, we're riding the trolley. So, we hope to incrementally continue to develop that, but I think, we had some good accomplishments this year. Right?
What were some of your takeaways from this year's? I mean, what are you going to do next year that's different than this year?
We hope to improve the lighting on the town green to sort of make it a little more of a destination. If you've noticed, if you've ever been down to Chester with their stars, and you've been to Ivoryton with their big musical illuminations, it's kind of a reason for people even to just drive through. And I think a little bit at a time, we'd like to up the lighting maybe in our town green, or maybe rope in some of the businesses on Main Street and have a reason for people to come through our town more often during the holidays as well. That kind of thing.
Can I ask a question? It says that, you sponsored an award ceremony for 5 businesses in town.
Yes.
And, I was thinking you mentioned the Cape before. Have you ever thought of having a business conference with the management in town to get ideas from the business community and how we can expand businesses in town? What they need from us and what we can offer them?
It's actually funny that you mentioned that. We are in the process, just the preliminary stages of planning something with the Kate. A couple of years ago, a TV show called Road Trip Masters came to town. And this was before me, but they taped a segment here in Old Saybrook. And it's available now. You can actually watch it on Amazon. I think it's $1.99 to rent it. And the Kate asked if we'd like to have a screening. And so what we're trying to put together is an event where we can invite all the businesses in town and have a screening of that, maybe like a little reception, sort of build some camaraderie and communication between the businesses. Also give an announcement about some of our ARPA funding and the plans for how we want to develop more coordination and cooperation amongst the businesses, sort of a kickoff for that. So yes, we are planning something like that.
Oh, good, thank you.
Yep. We have had a couple successful grants this year, just so you know. I'm sure you've all heard about the $500,000 we got for Steve to go with the sidewalks from Westbrook, and that was combined with other funding, so that instead of having to do that in a two phases, we're going to be able to do it all at once as soon as all the funding falls into place. So that's great. We've also been working with the River Pod. They have been putting together something called a SEDS, which would allow us to be able to apply for more federal funding. So we're excited about that. That would be regional, not just for Old Saybrook, but it would provide us with some other opportunities to access funds that we haven't been able to. Hopefully by the summer that piece will be in place. They're finalizing it right now, so that's something exciting. And the award ceremony that you referred to is something that's done about every 3 years. And usually it recognizes long-term businesses in the community. This year, one of the businesses we recognize has been in business for about 40 years. And the least amount of time that someone had been in business who would recognize this year was 20 years. So there's a lot of long-term businesses here in the community who have been very loyal and important parts of the community, and the Economic Development Commission really wants to make sure that they know how valuable we think they are. So I don't know if anyone has any other questions about some of the highlights of this year.
Jennifer, can I ask you a question? The second bullet about the 83 new businesses registered. Those are businesses, not necessarily brick and mortar businesses, right?
Correct.
But on the brick and mortar side, I think we've done a great job. You guys have done a great job in filling a lot of our spaces on Main Street and other places as well. Do you get any sense, have you had conversations with either the realtors or the businesses about why they're here, kind of picking up a little bit on where John was at in the sense of understanding more from the business, what's good that we can be promoting to bring more in?
I haven't had a lot of conversations with them about that, no. These numbers were from the last fiscal year, and I tried to look into some of them, and Some of them are just, people who have a presence here, but not necessarily, it's a bad way to explain it, but it's a very big mix of how this comes out. I know from the businesses that I've talked to on Main Street, though, that they, I think, really feel like there's an energy here that they like. A lot of those businesses, I think, feel a camaraderie with the other people who are around here. They like the atmosphere here in Old Saybrook. I mean, obviously, we get a lot of traffic compared to a lot of the neighboring communities. And so I think that that vibrancy is, from the feedback that I have gotten, a lot of the reason that people are coming here. We can do more about collecting data on that, definitely.
Well, particularly as we enter into a marketing program, understanding what it is about us that we should be out marketing.
Yes. And we do have an RFP out right now for a new marketing partner who we hope will help with some branding for our downtown or business community. And so that will certainly be part of that process, doing an analysis of, what we're doing right, where we can improve, how we can continue to attract and retain businesses.
Years ago, there was a Main Street Business Association, and that's gone. So it's really working through the chamber and with economic development. I think we need to fill that void to connect the businesses, to help them cross-promote, self-promote, and what the town can do to assist. So those are, I think, really important points and something we should focus on.
So is it our responsibility, or is it our idea to be a marketing agency for the Main Street businesses?
It's a marketing agency for the town, which, look, we love Main Street, but, the people on Route 1 want some attention too.
Oh, absolutely.
So it has to be for the town. I have gotten some feedback that some folks feel there's too much of a focus on Main Street. So it definitely has to be townwide fair, but Main Street is critical.
So I ask sometimes, what's the difference between marketing and economic development? Whereas economic development, she's receiving grants, et cetera, and marketing is a little bit different than economic development.
Well, I think all of those things feed into each other. They're interconnected. You want to get the word out to people in order to provide development. So you want to make sure that people know that this is a welcoming community, the things that we offer, that we're supportive of business, that you're not out there all on your own, that, we have a structure and an interest in your success. And so I think that's important to know that there's a partnership, that, you don't just come to the town and it's an island. We actually are invested in the vibrancy of our community and in its development and in its livability and all of that. So I think those two pieces are really interconnected.
Okay.
Suggestion, years ago, we had the African Queen that was in town for rides and so forth. And in talking to the gentleman back then, when he was doing that display and so forth, a question got brought up. He goes, why does an Old Saybrook, like Deep River and like East Haddam, have these river boats that the ones in Deep River go north and then they tie up by
Good Speed Bridge.
yeah. Why don't you work something in conjunction with those companies, the one in East Haddam, the one in Deep River, to come south, whether or not it's to go to the town dock in North Cove, where the trolley could bring them into Route 1, Main Street for so many hours. They know they can pick it up and go back to the boat at a certain time and then head back up the river, or come into, down, bigger plan down the road to have a dock that they can tie up to at Saybrook Point, where they can pick people up and go up to Deep River, where they can get on the train that usually drops them off from the Essex steam train, get on it and take the ride up north, tie that whole system in together. Because I think there might be an opportunity to use somebody else's, another town's idea, but expand it down into Old Saybrook, by offering the riverboats. Carl, I was just saying, why don't we consider approaching like Deep River Navigation or the one up in East Haddam? You know, they pick people up from the steam train and they go north. Well, what happens if we get them to come south and drop them off at, you know, down either Saybrook Point, we work something out down there, or to the town dock on Sheffield Street where the trolley picks these folks up, drops them all over Main Street and Route 1, and then get back to the boat by a certain time and they go back up north.
Can that boat get into the town dock?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, they can get in. It's Grant Westerson operating most of the time.
Wasn't it the Becky Thatcher?
Yeah.
The operating, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, even if it's not there, if we do something down at Saybrook Point in the long run through a grant, it'll tie into what we were trying to do down there and tie the whole river up. You know, you've got sightseeing with Catherine Hepburn's old house, you got all the history of the town. You know, so they always go north up to the Gillette's Castle. Look at the castle, folks. Yeah, you can't go to it, you can't do anything with it, but it's there. Come down, let them go into town, come back after so many hours and go back up. By offering a dockage, I think they might be interested in putting a boat there, make it worth their while as well. Just an idea.
The town doesn't own that dock
Which one?
at Saybrook Point. It's a private.
No, I'm saying down the future, I mean, there's all sorts of grants available that we could put something very easily there. There was we were approached many years ago by the USDA about putting the Plum Island boat there, and they were willing to put the whole dock there. And all they wanted to do was touch on it twice a day. But it didn't get past the selectman's office because of issues with fishermen, if we made it a fisherman's dock and then wanting to pull the lines in twice a day and so forth.
Something would have to be worked out.
Yeah.
Either Saybrook Point or Whole Harbor or something.
Yeah.
So on this page here, the cost containment,
Yeah.
that top thing you have, where can we see that video, share that video and promote that video that you have on the October?
So, oh, the October one?
Yeah, that video that, right on dot number 1, it says in October, you created a promotional video to attract visitors.
Oh, yeah, I can get it. We did put it online.
I think I've
I
seen
know.
it once before, but I mean, that might be something that if everybody, we here were to share, promote, you know, and see it, it just adds it to Facebook, yeah.
Yeah, I have that. And that video library was actually something that, Susie and the commission put together, before I came here, but I didn't see that it had ever been shared with this group, and it also worked out great for the October promotion, so that's why I wanted to put that in there. That was like a real forward thinking piece where we'll be able to use that stuff again and again to promote the town. Yeah. And that was done through Cinemotion.
Is that on YouTube?
The video might be on YouTube because of that, it was posted on the website at one point. I'll have to ask Larry Hayden how it's up there. It's not active on the website right now because obviously it's a fall promotion, you know, it's take down. But we just have sort of a regular video there now. That's our channel. As mentioned before, we put out an RFP for marketing services. We're getting a lot of response on that. The deadline for that is next month, and we hope to have somebody on board for that later in the spring to start working with us strategically on making some improvements. So that's going to be very exciting. We also are trying to maximize our social media and networking with other departments. And as I note here, it worked out very well for the Starlight Festival. Regional Family Services, Park and Rec, all of the affiliate groups that we were working with, we all really made an effort to share all of our material and to use all of our existing channels to push out information. And I think that worked very well. And it was also very helpful when we had to pivot at the last minute to change plans to go to a rain scenario. And we still got a lot of interest down at the Park and Rec for Santa and for the face painting. And people still came out. I mean, obviously it wasn't the day that we had hoped it would be, but people came to the library. I think they had 60 people there doing crafts in the morning. And so really, I think we made the best of a bad situation. And part of that was because we all really worked together with our own channels and that didn't cost anything.
One of the advantages we have in Old Saybrook is it seems like every news reporter lives here. Seriously, we have this Nicole Nalepa,
Yep.
and she's channel 8 or 3 or
Three.
You got Mark Zinni, I mean, what?
Lisa Carter.
Oh, Lisa Carver. I mean, it's incredible.
Eric Dobrex.
Yeah, Eric's is with channel 8, I think. He's in channel, I mean, it's incredible how many news connections we have there.
And we did get a nice little news segment,
Yeah.
for the Starlight Festival. Unfortunately.
Yeah,
And Cynthia McFadden, don't forget.
What?
Cynthia McFadden, too.
Yeah. Well,
But that was impressive the way you rolled with that rain, because there was a lot of wonderment going on the day before. Is this gonna happen? And in real time with social media, you were able to
Yeah.
get that information out. And that really helped to make that happen, because that was very bad weather and we had a good turnout, a major turnout. I thought it was a big turnout.
Yeah. Yeah, we were happy that it was as successful as it was considering the situation.
So,
I got to wear a cool outfit too.
Yeah. I took pictures of that. If anyone wants to share.
all right.
So some of the other things we are looking at, and we'll also be working on that more with our marketing firm, whoever we choose. In the past, we've done some digital marketing and something called geofencing, which sort of, I don't know how familiar you are with that, but it sort of takes a geographic location and helps to coordinate how you're promoting something. When we do the digital marketing, we're very strategic about how we choose who's going to get that so that we can get the most return on investment for those digital advertising dollars. So we'll continue to focus on it and we use that form of advertising.
Any other questions for Jennifer?
So have you did any measurements, Jennifer, of the impact of your advertising campaigns?
We do. We get a report from every campaign that we have from our marketing firm, and they tell us, you know, how many people opened it, how many people had an action related to it, and it varies depending on the campaign. But I can give you more information.
I'd be interested in a percentage of people that act on the advertising itself. You know, like,
They came to Old Saybrook.
just like if you're advertising the product, I'd like to know, you know, what kind of response my advertising dollar got.
I wonder if
Some
we
of
could,
that is, I'm not sure.
well, one of the ways you could do it maybe is working with the chamber, make sure the businesses ask people, how did you hear about us? Because we all get that question wherever we go.
Yeah.
One other thing, we're doing a request for proposal, for a consultant, Jennifer, for Mayor's Way. All right. That is more of a land use, more of a totally, well, a little bit of the same department, but guess who's doing a lot of the RFP work, okay? Because she's such a good writer and, you know, good organizer of thoughts, that, you know, Chris Costa and I are saying here, and Jennifer's putting it together. So it's, I think the role helps a lot of the other departments kind of come together and, high economic development in and also generate skill set.
Anybody else?
Carl, with the increase, obviously Main Street's great. There's a lot more businesses now. There are very few empty storefronts. But what about, we talk about this all the time, traffic in the crosswalks on Main Street.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
We're designing new crosswalks.
Okay.
Yeah.
With the state?
Well, we're gonna have to ask the state for permission. So there's,
What's the timeline on the project?
it's not 23, it's probably 24. Uh, yeah, so, I mean, I don't want to take up too much
No,
time.
you don't have to, that's all I was
We're,
asking.
we're looking to go from 4 to 6, so there'd be a crosswalk at the top of Main Street, Saybrook home to Starbucks. So there'd be a 4-way, you know, when it's red, and you can go from Saybrook home to the monkey farm, from the monkey farm to Sunoco, Sunoco to the chamber to Saybrook home. That is designed in a different grant that we have received for sidewalks over there. We're also talking about moving the Sheffield Street sidewalk north and having a new sidewalk here, to the, parking lot here, to cross here. I don't know that we'll get that, we'll see. But the other one is approved. So, and I tickled Jeff Jacobson the other day. I said, how we doing on this? And he is designing them. He's designing a lot of stuff for us right now. So that's more fun.
Susan? That one's important.
Thank you. Again, for the record, Susan Esty. Speaking on behalf of Jennifer and what she does, but some of the things that she didn't mention here is when a person is interested in making a business or starting a business, they go to the Economic Development Commission, and that office directs them, because not all new entrepreneurs know that you might have to go through zoning, you might have to go through planning, or you might have to get certain accreditation. And they really help direct new businesses to start up. And that's really important, because we do have a lot of people interested in starting new businesses, and she helps with that. What she doesn't do with other avenues is that we have a lot of businesses at home, and they do a lot of work at home, and that isn't necessarily reflected upon brick and mortar stores, but it's a part of our town economics. I'm saying she, Jennifer, but Jennifer and I have been talking back and forth on many different levels, as you all know, and I do a lot of different things in town. But we talk about, much like you say, how can we improve with the marine aspect of this town, which is a big draw for this town. What can we do about affordable housing, because that directly impacts the economics of this town. And so Jennifer really is trying to combine and has done so much work at working on the different commissions and how they really are intersecting and how we all have to work together. It's not just about economic development, because you can't have a development economically in this town unless you bring in those other facets to this town that make it grow. And I just have to say that on paper here, it looks really small, but when you go into her office and you start talking, it's like, oh my gosh, that portfolio opens up and just balloons.
It's expanded a lot. So
Thank you, Jennifer.
thanks. I think the registrars would like to address them. That's my sense.
Joe?
That's your good.
Yeah. Joe Broadhurst, the Republican registrar. And Joan Strickland, the Democrat Registrar of Voters.
Jones to be one of the registrars.
We have got, worked out, numbers for pretty much opposing numbers, depending how much change is.
Your voice out, please.
Yes, in regards to the registrar's office, I'm turning 70 and Joan is.
Well, we don't need to know.
Been here long enough, I also like to be considering retirement. We're looking though at a department that has not used any assistant registrars working in our office for the last few years with COVID. And before that, the two of us have only used them during elections. So our budget shows us as having for salaries, our current salary, which is each of us being at 12,250. I went through and looked at numbers for other towns. We've had a few surveys that have been lately, and we're really out of line with where others are. And another strange thing when trying to look through the survey is asking, did people in this town answer the census? Because in 2010, we had the same number.
Could you keep your voice up?
A number of people.
Well, there hasn't been a lot of new housing, so actually, yes, because the population was 10,200, the apartments came in, it's 10,500.
Yes.
Well, your population in 2010, according to the census, was 10,517. And the current is like 10,600. I thought we had better amount of new buildings and people coming in with the amount of rentals we have. What is happening in our department over the years, we've had major changes with having computers come in. And when you're looking at our pay, basically in the last 12 years, you're looking at an increase of about $370 per year over the time. But comparing to other towns, Old Saybrook population is shown as 10,563, but we have 9,034 active voters. The survey just gave ranges of pay. So we had marked ourselves off as 10,000 to 15,000 in 2021 for this survey. And looking at Old Lyme, they have a population of 7,577 with 5,893 voters, and they are in the survey as 15 to 20,000. And they are being paid between 15 to 20,000 in terms of that survey's range. There was a survey done in 2014. At that point, on the survey, Old Saybrook answered as 8,000 per year, and Old Lyme answered as 7,988. So, in terms of raise and pay, they've certainly done better than we have. Westbrook in 2014, which has a population of 6,810, 4,959 voters. Their pay in 2014 was 11,038. Essex has 6,759 for their population. Active voters, 5,343. And they were paid, they did not answer the survey, but in 2014, their pay was $9,255. Most have, also, if they answered by, pay, per hour, they, and 2021 were saying they were being paid between, 19 to 20 an hour. Haddam, said that they were being paid between $22 to $24.92 an hour. So I have a list of all those in other towns. So we haven't really kept up, and our amount of things that are required for us to do has kept on going up. The other biggest thing that is different is looking at the fact that do you have in the survey, do you have deputies, clerical workers, and assistants? 18% of those 164 that answered said no. But yes, part-time regular schedule was 38%. Yes, part-time when called in 35%, and then there was 7% who had full-time. So in the part-time area, 73% already have part-time people. For us to be able to train anyone to do this job, which has gotten very complicated and more difficult because we have election day registration. What the state is now proposing is to do early voting, and what Secretary of State Thomas has said that she wants it to be passed by the legislature, hopefully by the end of March. And she's looking for 10 days of early voting, with towns being expected to most likely have at least five people manning the polls to do it for 8 hours a day. And it will go, the 10 days will include 2 weekends, and the weekdays. We'll have Monday for setting up the polls and getting all our other things ready for election day on Tuesday. What we used to just have is 2 polling places. Since COVID, with absentee ballots increasing in 2020, we had over 3,000 absentee ballots, and it had poll workers who had to work until 10:30 to get them all processed at night. They started at 6 a.m. and went through till 10:30. The moderators for the absentee had to stay until almost midnight to process their final tallies and get through. So election day starts for Joan and I at about 4 o'clock in the morning, getting up and getting going, and then having to see everything all the way through till midnight. And then being back the next day we have all the equipment come back, it has to be all put away. We have to file the, to the state, all the results, get those in. If we end up with an audit, if we're chosen to be audited, because they always do an audit and whole town, we have done it once before, then all the poll workers that are basically subpoenaed to come in and have to work. And so this room becomes doing it all by hand to check the tally. The primary that we had involved the tabulators, because we don't have any air-conditioned polls. The tabulators in August melted down, over 100 in the state melted down and had to be repaired. We have 3 tabulators at this point that have had to be repaired. The state of Connecticut has got to decide what they're going to do about that, because they're all outdated. The same with our poll books. Larry has reported that a lot of them are falling apart, so we may not be able to have those poles. So we need increase of people to work at the poles, which is also increases that we have to teach them how to do the new voter early voting. And most of our poll workers are also aging out and retiring. And so the last election, I'm not sure how many poll workers you had, but I had 31 just to cover the Democrats. And ended up having to break them into doing shifts of 5:15 in the morning till noon, or noon at 8:15. So you have a lot more training going on. Yeah, it is just all incredibly increased in work and the number of hours. Joan and I have the smallest office in the area. So we, during the pandemic, ended up with having us work different days so that we can get our work done and not be within 6 feet of each other through it all. But with training anyone new, especially if they hopefully will want to go on to become a registrar, we need to have them in there working to learn the canvassing, registering the voters, which involves the DMV. It involves doing our canvas. There's so many aspects to it that it's hard to explain it all to everyone. But I checked with Westbrook. They have always had a deputy that comes in and works for every week. They pay their deputy with $18.50 an hour. So I'm looking at if registrars are in regards to what the survey is showing in terms of average pay per hour, and on average the polls are showing us that we work about an average of 850 hours per year. At our current pay, that is about equal to $14.50 an hour that we are being paid for what we do. I don't think that the level of training and expertise and being having to go through the certification and also answer all the constant stuff that's going on in regards to elections these days. A lot of people don't feel real secure about being working in polls anymore. So it is a stressful job. So I'm feeling my age with it, and thinking this is certainly a difficult job to do. And if we take doing 2 registrars at an average of $780, 780 hours a year at $20 an hour, that would increase our budget from the 22,500 to cover the 2 registrars with 31,200, which would increase the pay of each registrar by $4,350 per registrar. If we go to 24 an hour, that would increase the pay for 2 registrars to $37,440, which would be an increase of $7,470 per registrar. If we're doing 2 deputies or assistants, I would figure them to have about 312 hours a year, which at $18 would be 5,616 per deputy. So, so we've got increases in our budget for those things. The other things, we just really don't know, what the state is going to cover. It's certainly claiming that we're, or recommending that the training, the new tabulators, the state has never, approved a poll book, but we do appreciate using them. But, and think that they are saying it will be necessary, but we will need to know what vendor they approve. And that's kind of it.
I just want to say something about the deputies.
Yeah.
We are mandated to have deputies.
Well, you both have appointed deputies.
Yeah.
Correct.
Just recently, but we don't use it,
Right, right.
but we should, because you know how I became registered, because I was a deputy and the registrar fell over hip and never came back 6 weeks before the 2012 presidential election. So we need deputies that are trained, so we don't end up with that
Right.
situation again.
Yeah, if you look back at 2012, Carol was paid $7,675. Jean was paid $7,727 and Joan was $3,538. So the total pay then was $18,940. Then 2013, Jean was still on the books, but the total came to $20,890. So, these are the numbers in terms of
Okay. So thank you and congratulations on your election.
it was tough against each other.
So look, the deputies is an interesting, you brought up a lot of stuff. I mean, and I'm not quite sure what you're asking for exactly, because so if you had deputies at 2,500, whatever they were, that would in theory relieve some of what you're asking for in terms of your workload, and in theory, no?
Not really, because we would have to be in there to do most with them through this year. Because they're going to have to be trained, they're going to have to go through certification.
Right, but once they're done with that, then they're basically, so that's one thing. I hear you on the deputies. I'm not sure who has deputies. I did do just surrounding towns. Westbrook is paid $14,000 a year. Essex is $11,800. Clinton is $10,000. They're going to $11,000 this year. And Old Line is a bit of an outlier at $18,000. To be honest with you. So
Those are registrars, not deputies.
those are registrars. Yeah. So the early voting.
Population for those towns is very different. And number of voters.
They're not that much different. I mean, we're within a range. We're with Clinton has more population and, Old Line is within. I'm not arguing.
Yeah,
I'm just telling you, all right? So early voting is an entirely different issue. So I agree with you wholeheartedly, okay? If early voting comes and they don't fund it at the state level, it's gonna be an incredible expense.
Do they realize that when they're passing?
Yeah, oh, yeah, they know.
The expenses.
They don't call that unfunded care. I mean, that's what it would be. Now, to her credit, Stephanie Thomas has said to the state, do it, but give the towns funding. So I don't know what that looks like.
We're still paying for it.
Yes,
No,
not out of your municipal budget,
the
so.
biggest problem is gonna be getting staffing. I mean, we
Yeah.
can't get staff for
Right.
election.
But that's another thing. I mean, you brought up moderators and poll workers, and I understand there's training, but they're also paid. I mean, they're.
Yes.
I mean,
Oh, I know,
I know.
I know, I'm just saying in terms of looking at, in terms of looking at our budget and where is it going to have to go up or not go up?
So looking at your budget though, if you look at your actuals, other than a presidential year, it looks like there's plenty of money. Okay, when you look at your actuals. So there is money in your budget. You know, the registrar budget is well funded, okay, and it has been for years. It's probably higher funded. I bet if we compared budgets with other towns, it's well funded. But I'm not saying there's not a need to make sure we have a deputy in place. I'm not that, you know, you guys have appointed deputies, but you're telling me what?
We don't use them right now.
Yeah. So, you know, in terms of salary, for the registrars themselves, I think you're in a range. I'm not saying that you're overpaid. I'm not saying you're underpaid. I think you're in a range. I mean, it could, I think, I don't, you know, another, it could go up 1,000 or 2, you know, but I don't know that I could support much more than that, because if you look around, I think that's exactly what others are being paid. But you didn't ask for a lot more than that anyway. So, what is now Carol Conklin is also a regional, she does a lot of training, and she is paid through the COG. And, she also does a lot of training, and I know she talks about it at the COG meetings. When there is a registrar, a new registrar, Carol's paid, I want to say about 10,000, 12,000 through the COG. That was also a mandate. The state said there should be a regional, what'd she call it?
I don't know.
You know,
Regional something.
something for voters, and she goes around and helps new registrars in the COG so that the elections go well. And the elections, to our credit, Old Saybrook, I think, does an amazing job. The same day registration, I know with Larry Hayden has done a lot of work there. Am I right about that?
He sets it up, but we
Yeah.
always have to, it's a whole crew.
Yeah, it's a whole crew. It's an amazing thing. When they asked for it, 3, 4, whatever it was, I mean, we responded. I think we did better than a lot of towns. Handicap voting were exceptional at that, I think. Yeah, so, you know, I'm a little defensive in that I believe we have invested in the resources. I'm not saying that, you know.
I agree we've invested in the resources, but I do think that, there's a lack of understanding of how much time it takes for us to do. We don't, most of what I find myself doing is working at home, because I have to call people for each primary, election, et cetera, and keep trying to find new people.
Yeah, you know, it's hard to find people.
It's very hard to find people, then you have to teach every new person, and you've got to, feed them. Another thing in our budget that, the cafeteria had gone way up. So then we took on going and picking up food and lugging water and all this, and it's a lot of running around to do all those things for each thing that we do. We're not simply sitting in the office. We're doing that.
What I'm saying.
And that's part of why I'd like, assistance.
Yeah,
because
right. I think
we need those things.
it sounds like that makes some
Yeah,
sense.
the same with, we had used, Latham movers to bring equipment, and then we have poll workers,
So would you pay the assistant the salary, or would it be an hourly?
I think it would be an hourly.
An hour, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As
One
I
of
said, Westbrook pays their assistant, 18 an hour.
One other thing we do, which probably nobody here knows, that every other year is the Fenwick election, and we have to help them with that. That's this year.
So
That just takes that extra time and,
Carl, I
So the
think-
whole problem here is, we need the voter registration cards, and it could all be done electronically. I mean, the way we do voting in the state, in this country, is antiquated with today's tools. It could be done with a voter registration card and electronically, and they're all automated. And it's just-
We'll run a pilot program together. We'll say, yeah.
No,
Why don't, go ahead.
So Carl, I think the other thing that I'm hearing between the lines is also, hey, listen, we've got some very good registered voters that at some point are not going to be there to do that anymore.
That's
And
the
reality-
main thing, is you need to keep getting ready,
Yeah,
because
that is true.
we are
It's-
not going to be here a year or two from now.
It's a shot across,
We thought we would be getting done this year.
it's a shot across the bow that, hey, you're gonna need to replace us. So you better get something in place for the future. But the other problem that I'm hearing, and I see it across the whole state of Connecticut, is again, getting people in these places. And the reality is, if it's a young kid and it's not on one of these,
Yeah.
they don't want anything to do with it. And I don't think you're gonna get the clientele that you need for that type of position at a significantly younger age, and not being disrespectful, please understand that.
I have only had one person express any desire to become the registrar of voters, and she was a registrar of voters back in 1985. And she said, we didn't do canvases. You have to show up. Why do you need to be there every day?
So here's a recommendation. Let me get with these guys and make a recommendation in my budget, okay?
But she's 73 years old. How long will she last?
We're gonna do that.
And that's probably what all I did, was by making it attractive with a higher rate. It's not as much of a problem, because people look at it, hey, for a part-time gig, I could.
I've also thought of doing, I work with a realtor also, so I've thought of doing the hours to be later in the evening, like a 4 to 6, because maybe someone, even if it's someone that's going to school, could do it as a part-time job and want it, so.
And of course, Democrats, Republicans, there's more unaffiliated than both of us, so.
Right.
The pool of volunteers or even registrars is smaller.
Yeah.
Thank you
very much. We're just here to tell you this.
Yeah, thank you. And by the way, voting has gotten a lot more complicated. There is no doubt about it. And it is complicated your role. I understand that.
And in terms of you getting someone to take our place, you're probably going to have to offer a higher than minimum wage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Wherever you go.
Are you guys up for just dipping through this?
You wanna do that today, or you wanna? Table it till
Today or
Tuesday.
Tuesday, whatever.
Table it? Okay.
That's Tuesday.
That's fine.
Yeah, 'cause it's a lot.
Thank you, guys.
Speak up. and-
Yes.
Or Jerry, I should say, whoever,
Then you gotta make a motion. So.
What?
For your side.
Okay.
Should I have?
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I finally made the vote.
yeah, no, that's right.
But, Carl, that's physically demanding.
Well, yeah.
Setting up, you think away.
What happened?
I volunteered. for my time.
And we cross that bridge.
But you gotta be trained here. I mean, there's a thing.
You gotta be careful how you
But
put the ad. Somebody else.